If you can't take care of my sister, we're getting a divorce. It's been 2 months since my sister-in-law, Mary, returned from overseas and started living at our house. I felt like she was taking advantage of me every day, and the stress was becoming too much. I decided to talk to my husband about it to see if we could fix the situation, but he got really angry and said he wanted a divorce. I argued that this was a drastic decision, but he wouldn't listen to me. Let's discuss what we should do next, I said. There's nothing to discuss. My sister can stay here as long as she wants, he replied. I felt more and more frustrated as he said this, and I couldn't take it anymore. This led to a big fight. Mary saw what was happening, and instead of helping, she just smiled, as if she enjoyed it. It was clear that she was the cause of our problems. I didn't understand what Mary was thinking. 2 months ago, she had returned from abroad after getting divorced and losing custody of her kids. She was heartbroken and decided to live in a hotel instead of going back to her parents, who would ask too many questions. Soon after, she started visiting our home, claiming she was lonely. One day, after a week of her visiting, I came home from work, and my husband stopped me from going into my own room. Hold on, don't just go in there, he said. I can't have my sister living in a hotel forever, so I let her use this room. He decided that Mary could stay in my room without even talking to me about it first. All my things were still in there. This is a problem. You should have discussed it with me first, I said. Why are you being so selfish? Just let her make herself at home. She's been through a lot, losing her marriage and her kids, he replied. His words made me feel guilty, as if I was the one in the wrong. I stayed quiet, unsure of what to say. He then told me to always knock before entering my room. After that, Mary started treating my room like it was hers and began acting like I was her maid. You came home late. I'm hungry, so hurry up and make me dinner, she demanded. I had already prepped a meal, so I told her it would be ready soon. I'll be playing a game in my room, so call me when it's ready, she said. When I knocked on her door to let her know dinner was ready, she came out and frowned at the food. I don't like pasta. I can't eat this. Make me a steak with sides, she said. I don't have the ingredients for that, and it will take too long to make. Then just order takeout, she replied. I've already cooked pasta for 3, please just eat that for today. No way, order takeout now. I felt stuck. My husband insisted that I should just go along with Mary, but I didn't know what to do. If I shared my feelings, he told me to think about Mary's feelings, which made it hard for me to respond. Mary, knowing her brother was on her side, started waking me up in the middle of the night. I want ice cream, go buy it now. What time is it? It's 2 a.m., I said. The convenience store at the gas station should be open. Come on, get up, she insisted. I was just about to fall asleep. I have work tomorrow, so I needed a break. Whenever I said no to Mary, she would run to my husband and tell on me. This meant I got scolded and had to go get ice cream in the middle of the night. Mary never helped with cleaning up after meals or any chores around the house. Instead, she demanded that I clean her room every day. Just to be clear, her room was actually my room, which she had taken over. Her requests kept getting worse, and now she was asking me for money. Sorry, that's not possible. If you need money, ask your brother, I told her. I can't believe you're refusing. I'm going to tell my brother again. Are you okay with that? She said. I had been following her orders because I felt sorry for her situation, but I knew that if I gave her money now, she would just keep asking for more in the future. So, for the first time, I stood my ground and refused to let her boss me around. When my husband got home from work, Mary cried and told him I had upset her. Catherine, why did you make my sister cry? He asked. I didn't make her cry, I just said no when she asked for money. She doesn't do any chores and treats me like a maid. I'm emotionally exhausted. It's been over 2 months since she moved in. Can't you do something about it? He shouted back, shut up. If you can't take care of my sister, we're getting a divorce. My husband was furious and insisted on a divorce. I argued that this was too extreme, but he wouldn't listen. I suggested we have a proper discussion about what to do next, but he said there was nothing to discuss. His sister would stay in our house as long as she wanted. I felt my frustration grow as he casually said this. I couldn't handle it any longer, and our argument escalated. Mary watched us and didn't try to help. Instead, she smirked, clearly pleased with the chaos she had caused. I had no idea what Mary was thinking when she said, I'm going to make you regret this. My name is Catherine, and I'm 27 years old. Right now, I feel like I'm being manipulated by my sister-in-law. My parents divorced when I was young because of my dad's cheating. After that, my mom raised me alone, but she passed away from breast cancer when I was 19. Since then, I've had friends, but the loneliness of not having family has always been there. I've kept that loneliness hidden. During that time, I met my husband, Bob. After being together for a year, we got married 3 years ago. The excitement of our early days has faded, but I have been thankful for the family I gained. However, recently, Bob lost his interest in work, quit his job, and now only works part-time 3 days a week. This added to my worries, especially with Mary entering our lives. When Bob and I got married, Mary was living abroad and was already pregnant with her first child, so she couldn't attend our wedding. We never got to meet because we lived so far apart. I had always heard from my mother-in-law that Mary was kind and considerate, so I never expected her to be so selfish. Her behavior left me confused and frustrated. The day after our big argument, I came home from work, and Mary was grinning, holding a handful of cash. The amount seemed way too big to have come from Bob. "Mary, where did you get all that money?" I asked. "I sold some bags and jewelry I found in the bedroom," she said. "Wait, you mean my room? Where else would they be?" She laughed. I rushed into my room and checked my closet, but my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry were gone. "Why did you sell my things?" I demanded. "Because you wouldn't give me any allowance," she replied nonchalantly. "Those were family heirlooms." "Good, you didn't need them anymore," she said with a smirk. "That's not the point. Where did you sell them? Tell me now." "Chill out. I sold them at this place called Super Thrift Shop, but good luck getting them back." I quickly headed to the thrift shop to buy back my things. Since she had just sold them, I thought I could still get them back. When I arrived, I learned some shocking news. They had a rule that only the person who sold the items could buy them back unless there was proof that they were stolen. Without evidence, I was stuck and could do nothing. I knew about the thrift shop's rules, but I was so upset that I forgot about them. As I walked home, I felt a strong desire for revenge against my sister-in-law. I decided I would get to the bottom of this, starting by cleaning my room. Another week passed, and I was still at the mercy of my demanding sister-in-law, putting up with my husband's anger along the way. Finally, it felt like the moment for a showdown had come. Like any other day, Mary treated me like a maid, and my patience was wearing thin. As evening approached, I ended up arguing with Bob. "I can't keep living like this. If you don't treat my sister better," I started. "Are you threatening me with divorce again?" he interrupted. "If you don't change your attitude toward Mary, I might have to," I said. Lately, it felt like Bob thought that bringing up divorce would make me stay quiet and obey him. He always looked down on me with arrogance, while Mary stood next to him, laughing. Then, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and found my mother-in-law standing there. "Long time no see, Catherine. Can I come in?" she asked. "I'm happy you came. Please come in," I replied. "Mom, why are you here?" I asked, noticing that Bob's expression darkened when he saw her. Mary didn't look happy either. She didn't even smile at the visit. I was confused about why she wasn't excited to see her own mother. "Oh, I didn't know you had a friend over," my mother-in-law said when she saw Mary. "What are you talking about? She's your daughter, isn't she?" I replied. "Oh, stop joking. Mary just had her second child. She even sent me some photos recently," my mother-in-law said, pulling out her phone. She showed me a picture of the real Mary, who was still happily married overseas. The woman in the photo looked completely different from the person claiming to be Mary standing in front of us. As the woman tried to leave the living room, my mother-in-law firmly stopped her. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Well, I am a friend," the woman stammered. "Yeah, she's my friend," Mary quickly added, but it was clear they were both panicking. That's when I revealed her true identity. "So you aren't Mary after all. I always thought it was odd. You must be Bob's mistress." "What are you talking about? Don't spout nonsense," she shouted. I couldn't let Bob deceive us any longer. I immediately showed my mother-in-law a video on my laptop that captured him and the woman getting cozy in our living room. Bob tried to grab the laptop from his mother to stop her from seeing it, but I stopped him. "What is this?" my mother-in-law asked, looking shocked. "You better have a good explanation," she warned. Bob hesitated, so I stepped in to explain everything. "This woman, who claims to be Mary, has been staying at our house for over 2 months. Bob let her live here out of pity because she went through a divorce and lost custody of her child. On top of that, She sold my mother's heirlooms at a thrift shop without my permission. The video showed this woman happily talking about how she made money selling my mother's heirlooms. She even suggested to Bob that they should go out and have fun with the money. How could she do something so awful? My mother-in-law said, looking furious. What happened to the heirlooms? She asked. They can only return them to the person who sold them, so they are currently at the thrift shop, I replied. Then, I turned to the woman, who looked very uncomfortable. You are Megan Foster, aren't you? No, you're wrong. Don't make baseless accusations. Do you have any evidence? She said defensively. It's pointless to pretend you're innocent. You may not know, but I'm the manager of the super thrift shop, I said. Huh? I didn't see you there, she stammered. I wasn't at the shop when the heirlooms were sold because I was at a meeting at headquarters. As the manager, I can verify the ID of the person who sold the items, I explained. I realized that the woman was not my sister-in-law, but I didn't have enough proof. I worried she might come up with excuses, so I made a plan. My mother-in-law had been wanting to see a performance by her favorite artist, so I decided to buy tickets for her. The plan was to invite her to pick up the tickets and stay the night so she wouldn't have to travel back home right after. She was thrilled, and that's how we ended up in this situation. I'm sorry for making you come here without telling you the truth, I said. That's all right. I understand it's not easy for you to talk about this. By the way, how did you manage to capture the footage? My mother-in-law asked. I didn't want my belongings to be sold without my permission again, so I installed hidden cameras that look like light bulbs in my room. While cleaning, I had a feeling she might be having an affair, but I never expected anything like this, I explained. Sure enough, the footage showed the two of them getting intimate when I wasn't home. It was shocking to see. Bob and I had been arguing a lot, and I had started to think it might be time to end things, but it's still tough to see your husband cheating. Catherine, I was just being manipulated by this woman, Bob exclaimed. How pathetic of you to say that, lying about her being your sister and letting her stay in our house? What were you thinking? I yelled at Bob. Don't blame this on me. I only pretended to be your sister because if we got caught having an affair, I would be kicked out with nowhere to go. You told me it would be convenient for me to use your wife as a housemaid. You even said if you got divorced because of marital issues, you wouldn't have to pay alimony. I was taken aback and filled with rage upon hearing this. Now that your relationship has fallen apart, it's impossible to fix things between you two. Why don't you just get a divorce? You and I can be happy together, right, Bob? You've always wanted to divorce me, so let's part ways. I handed Bob the divorce papers I had already filled out with my name. He started to panic. Don't rush things. I don't want to leave you. Just let this slide. Seeing Bob begging on his knees was pathetic. His mistress, looking teary-eyed, said, You won't abandon me, will you? I have nowhere else to go if you kick me out of here. Shut up. Don't come near me, Bob shouted as he brushed her off. Her desperate pleas were uncomfortable for me to watch. Instead of focusing on Bob, I conveyed something important. You don't have to worry about where to go. Huh? What do you mean? I reported you to the police earlier for stealing and selling my belongings. They should be arriving any minute. As the sound of police sirens grew louder, the woman realized the situation. I'm really sorry. I've learned my lesson. I won't do it again. If apologizing was all it took, then we wouldn't need the police, would we? I said, presenting her to the police as the one who stole my belongings. She was soon taken away. Bob, staring blankly at the scene, began to beg again. Don't leave me. Your salary is higher than mine. If you abandon me, I won't survive. You understand that, right? You don't have to live a lavish lifestyle. Besides, you need to work more than just 3 days a week. You'll have to work more to pay me alimony. I'll pay the alimony, but can't we find a way to avoid a divorce? No chance. My mind is made up. Sign the divorce papers now. With my mother-in-law urging him, Bob reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Hey, about the alimony, can you deduct it from our division of assets? He asked. There are no assets we built together. My savings are from before we got married, so they're not for us to split. I've been covering most of our living expenses since we got married, so I'm in the red. Bob turned pale upon hearing this, but my mother-in-law and I ignored him and kicked him out of the house. After getting rid of the villain, a sense of sadness lingered that evening. My mother-in-law and I sat together, sharing drinks and having a heartfelt conversation. I got back my mother's heirloom bags and jewelry with enough proof that they had been stolen. My divorce from Bob was finalized quickly. I demanded $20,000 each in alimony from Bob and his mistress. Bob was disowned by his in-laws and broke up with his mistress, who had been released from jail. They constantly argued after that. My mother-in-law, worried about me being alone, reached out to me regularly. Through this experience, our bond grew stronger than ever. Fast forward 3 years, and I stood in a chapel wearing a wedding dress. I held the hand of the man who had eagerly waited for me to walk down the aisle, as we vowed to love each other forever. I felt tears of happiness rolling down my cheeks.
"I'm not asking for all of it, just the majority," Mum said, her voice tight with urgency, like the words physically hurt her to say. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, fingers wrapped around her coffee mug like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her mascara smudged. I'd never seen her cry like that, not even when Grandma died. "It's her life, Tatum," she whispered. "Your sister is dying." That was the hook. That was the line that snapped something in me. My name is Tatum. And when I was 18, I gave up my college fund because my mom told me my sister was dying. I still remember how the kitchen smelled like burnt toast and lemon cleaner. The air was thick with panic, and London was upstairs, supposedly too weak to come down. I hadn't seen her in days. Mum said the doctors found something rare, something aggressive. She said there was a surgery, urgent, expensive, not covered. I remember asking, "What about insurance?" She shook her head. "It's experimental. They won't touch it." I looked at Dad. He was standing near the sink, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He didn't say a word, just stared at the floor like it held the answers. "I don't know what else to do," Mum said, her voice cracking. "We've pulled what we can. Your college fund is the only thing left." I stared at her. "That's everything I've worked for." "I know," she said, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't life or death. That was the moment. The moment I stopped being a teenager with dreams and became a daughter with obligations. I signed the release papers the next day. She cried again, hugged me so hard I couldn't breathe. "I'm proud of you," she said. "You're saving her life." That was 5 years ago. Now I'm 23, working the closing shift at a diner off Route 9, wearing a name tag that says Tay because my manager thinks it sounds friendlier. I share a 2-bedroom apartment with 3 roommates and a cat that isn't mine. I haven't seen London in years, but every few months I get a text from Mum. She's still recovering. It's been hard, but she's strong. I never ask for more. I stopped asking after the 2nd year. Tonight, after my shift, I'm sitting on the ripped couch in our living room, peeling off my sneakers when my phone buzzes. A notification pops up on my screen. London.ew tagged in a photo. I blink. I haven't seen her tagged in anything in months. Curiosity wins. I tap. The photo opens full screen. London is standing on a beach in Bali, golden hour lighting her face like a damn perfume ad. She's wearing a silk wrap, long legs stretched out in the sand, her hair in perfect waves. Her face looks different, sharper, almost doll-like. The caption reads, "Healing looks good on me. Glow up. Island vibes. On my self-love journey." I stare at the screen. My thumb hovers over the image, then taps to the next one. She's on a yacht, champagne in hand. Then another. Some luxury spa with cucumber slices over her eyes, all posted within the last few months. I scroll back. The surgery was supposed to have happened in March, 5 years ago. I remember because I missed my senior prom that week. The photo from Bali is dated 6 months after that. I lock my phone and sit back, heart pounding. No, there has to be a mistake. Maybe she recovered quickly. Maybe the surgery worked and she's living her life now. Maybe. I open Instagram again, go to her profile. It's private. I press the back button and stare at the last photo again. Her face, her nose, is different. Her jawline too. Not just different. Constructed. I don't sleep that night. I lie in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation from that time, every tear my mom shed, every silent nod from my dad, every missed opportunity I swallowed because I thought I was choosing love over ambition. The next morning I call Mum. She answers on the 3rd ring. "Tatum, hi sweetie. Hey, just checking in. How's London?" "Oh, still recovering. It's been a long road, but she's getting stronger." I pause. "Is she in Bali?" There's a beat of silence. "What?" I saw a photo. Someone tagged her. She looked healthy, really healthy. Mum exhales. Well, she's been doing some wellness retreats. That's part of her healing. You know how she is, always chasing the sun. Right, I say. She deserves it after everything she's been through. I hang up a few minutes later, my stomach twisted in knots. The way she said deserves. Like my sacrifice was just a stepping stone in London's self-love journey. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I start digging. I scroll through tagged photos, old posts, comments. I find one where someone asks about her glow-up. London replies with a winking emoji and says, "A little help from science." I feel like I'm going to throw up. I don't tell anyone, not yet, not until I know more. But something inside me shifts that night. A quiet click, like a lock turning. I don't cry, I don't scream. I just sit there, staring at her face on the screen, and whisper to myself, "You lied." And I gave up everything. The next morning, I called in sick to the diner. I wasn't sick, not in the way they meant. But something was definitely broken in me now, cracked open and leaking. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, a mug of black coffee, and a growing list of questions. London's Instagram was private, but tagged photos weren't. I found more. A champagne brunch in Monaco, a spa in Malibu, a photo of her laughing in front of a boutique in Paris, holding 3 shopping bags and wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than my rent. Each post had that same tone, light, glamorous, untouchable. I clicked on one of the comments. "You look amazing. So happy you're thriving." London replied, "Thank you, babe. Had to go through hell to get here, but worth it." I stared at that little lipstick emoji like it was mocking me. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Just wanted to say thank you again for all you did for your sister. She's finally starting to feel like herself again." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I pulled up my contacts and scrolled until I found him. Travis Baker, Lau, London's ex. They dated for about a year, right after her surgery. He used to come to family dinners sometimes, always polite, always a little too quiet. They broke up suddenly. No one ever said why. I hadn't talked to him since. I hesitated, then typed, "Hey, it's Tatum. Got a sec? Need to ask you something about London." 3 dots appeared almost immediately. "Hey. Wow. Yeah. What's up?" "Weird question. Back when you and London were together, was she ever really sick? Like, before her surgery?" This time the dots took longer. No, she wasn't sick. Not at all. I stared at the screen. "What do you mean, not at all?" "She told me your mum made up the story, said it was the only way you'd give up the money. She laughed about it once. Said you were too good for your own good." My hands went cold. "You're sure?" "I was there, Tatum. I saw the invoices. She got a nose job and some other stuff done. And then we went to Monaco like 3 weeks later. She said it was a post-op celebration." I didn't respond right away. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, shaking. Then another message popped up. "I still have the receipts, plane tickets, hotel bills. I held on to them after we broke up. I don't even know why." "Want me to send them?" "Yes." He emailed them within the hour. I opened the attachments slowly, like peeling back a bandage. There they were. PDFs of hotel bookings, spa treatments, a dinner reservation at a place that had a dress code and a wine list longer than my resume. All dated less than a month after she supposedly almost died. I forwarded them to myself and saved them in a folder named Truth. I sat back and stared at the screen. My heart was racing, but my body felt numb. Then I heard the front door open. "Hey," said Kayla, one of my roommates. She dropped her gym bag on the floor. "You okay? You look like you saw a ghost." I forced a smile. "Just tired." She walked to the fridge, grabbed a La Croix and popped the tab. "Want to go out tonight? Jenna's DJing at that rooftop place." "Can't. Got stuff to do." She raised an eyebrow. "You never go out." I didn't answer. She shrugged and went to her room. I turned back to my laptop and opened London's Instagram again. I looked at her face, her smile, the way she posed like the world owed her something. Then I clicked on Mum's profile. She didn't post much, but her bio still said, "Proud mother of 2 strong, beautiful daughters, faith, family, sacrifice." Sacrifice. I opened our last text thread. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. How exactly is London still recovering if she's been travelling the world for years? I hit send. A minute later, she replied, Sweetheart, healing isn't linear. She's been through so much. Don't be bitter. You did a beautiful thing. I gave up my future. You gave your sister life. I stared at the message. Then I typed, no. I gave her a new face and a first-class ticket to Monaco. I didn't wait for a reply. Instead, I opened a new tab and started searching. I wasn't sure for what yet. Maybe a name, a receipt, a clue, anything. I didn't know where this was going, but I knew one thing for sure. They thought I'd never find out. They were wrong. The receptionist at Mitchell Aesthetics had a voice like a cheerleader and the energy of a triple espresso. Hi, thanks for calling Dr. Mitchell's office. How can I help you today? I cleared my throat. Hi. I'm doing a piece for a blog about cosmetic trends and recovery timelines. I was wondering if I could get some general info about rhinoplasty packages. Pricing? Estimated recovery? That kind of thing? Oh, totally. I can email you our latest brochure with all the details, including procedure timelines, average costs and post-op care. That would be amazing. Thank you. Can I get your name and email? I gave her a fake last name and my real burner email. She chirped a thank you and hung up. 5 minutes later, the email came through. I opened the PDF and scanned the document. Rhinoplasty. $15,000, $21,000 depending on complexity. Optional add-ons for chin contouring, lip fillers, and non-invasive facial harmonization. Recovery. 10-14 days for public appearance, 4 to 6 weeks for full healing. I clicked through the file until I found a sample invoice. The logo matched the one from Travis's receipts. I leaned back in my chair. My laptop screen glowed in the dark room. The only sound was the hum of the fridge behind me. It wasn't enough. I needed more. I needed proof tied to my money. I grabbed my bag and headed to my parents' house the next morning. I hadn't been there in over a year. Mom said she was taking London to a wellness retreat in Sedona. Dad would be home. He always was. He opened the door with a surprised blink. Tatum? Hey, Dad. He stepped aside slowly. Come in. The house looked exactly the same. Family portraits on the wall, the same beige couch, the same dusty fake plant in the corner. I walked straight to the hallway. Wait, what are you doing? He asked, trailing behind me. I didn't answer. I went into the office, sat at the old desktop and powered it on. It took forever to boot up. Dad stood in the doorway. Is everything okay? I just need to check something. He didn't stop me. He didn't ask again. He just stood there, rubbing his hands together like he was cold. Once the computer loaded, I opened the browser and clicked on saved passwords. London's email was still logged in. So was Mum's. I opened Mum's inbox and searched Mitchell. My breath caught. There it was. Subject. Payment confirmation. Mitchell Aesthetics. I clicked. The email was dated March 14th, 5 years ago, the day after I signed over my college fund. Transfer of $19,800 received. Procedure scheduled for March 20th. Recipient, Elizabeth Patient, London. I took a screenshot and emailed it to myself. Then I searched account transfer. Another hit. Subject, custodial withdrawal request, approved. Amount, $20,000 from Tatum's college fund to Elizabeth, custodial guardian. I clicked again. The approval was time-stamped 3 hours after our kitchen table conversation. I leaned back, hands shaking. Dad, I said without turning around. Did you know? He didn't answer. I turned to look at him. His face was pale. I didn't know the whole plan, he said quietly. Just that the money wasn't going to a hospital. So you knew it was a lie. I thought it was for therapy. Maybe something to help her mental health. Your mum said it was complicated. She stole from me. He looked at the floor. I didn't know how to stop it. I stood up. You didn't even try. He didn't follow me when I walked out. Back at my apartment, I opened a new folder on my laptop and labelled it Evidence. I dropped in screenshots, PDFs, emails, photos. I colour-coded everything by date. I made a spreadsheet. March 13th, Mom asks for money. March 14th, custodial transfer approved. March 20th, rhinoplasty scheduled. April 10th, London in Bali. May 3, Monaco trip with Travis. I cross-checked it all with Instagram timestamps and tagged photos. I found a post where London checked into Glow House Beverly Hills for a lip filler touch-up. Another where she thanked a skin sculptor in New York. The pattern was clear. Every few months, another enhancement, another trip, another lie. I stared at the spreadsheet. Then I called Aunt Ruby. She picked up on the second ring. Tatum. Hi, I need to ask you something. Okay. Do you remember when Mom told everyone London was sick? She hesitated. I remember it didn't feel right. She wasn't sick. It was plastic surgery. They used my college fund. There was silence. I have proof, I said. Receipts, transfers, emails. Ruby exhaled sharply. Jesus. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I'm going to do something about it. What do you need from me? There's a family reunion next month, at the lodge. I know. Your mum's been planning it for weeks. She's calling it a celebration of resilience and recovery. Ruby laughed bitterly. Of course she is. I'm going to show everyone what really happened. There was a pause. I'll be there, Ruby said. Whatever you need. I hung up and stared at the screen again. The folder was growing. The truth was getting louder. They wanted a celebration. Fine. I'd give them one they'd never forget. I set up the projector on my kitchen table, dimmed the lights, and clicked through the slides. Slide 1. A photo of me in London at the beach when we were kids. We're both smiling, sunburned, wrapped in towels. The title above it read, How I Paid to Save My Sister's Life. Slide 2. The invoice from Mitchell Aesthetics. 19 aita 800 tollus, rhinoplasty. Slide 3. A screenshot of the bank transfer from my college fund signed by Mum. I clicked through slowly, checking transitions, fonts, everything. I wanted it clean. Precise. No room for doubt. Kayla walked in halfway through and stopped in the doorway. What's this? I minimised the presentation. Nothing. Just putting something together for the reunion. She raised an eyebrow. That thing your mom's hosting? The resilience and recovery party? Yeah. She took a sip from her smoothie. Sounds like a cult meeting. I laughed once, sharp. You have no idea. The next day, I met Ruby at a diner halfway between our towns. She slid into the booth across from me, took one look at my face and said, You've been busy. I have everything, I said, handing her a flash drive. Bank records, emails, receipts, even Instagram timestamps. She took it and tucked it into her purse without looking. You're really doing this? I'm not just doing it for me. I want them to feel it. I want them to sit in it. Ruby nodded slowly. You're your mother's daughter in all the best ways. I blinked. That's the first time anyone said that, and it didn't feel like an insult. She smiled. I'll be there. I'll sit right up front. The week before the reunion, I called Mum. Hi, sweetheart, she chirped. So glad you called. I wasn't sure if you were coming. I'll be there, I said. I want to support London. Oh, that means so much. She's been through so much. You know how hard these years have been for her. I do, I said flatly. She's speaking at the end, but if you want to say something too, maybe a little tribute, about sisterhood, that would be lovely. Yeah, I said. I'll prepare something. The pause on the other end was brief, but I caught it. Wonderful, she said. I'm so glad we're reconnecting. I smiled, even though she couldn't see it. Me too, Mum. The day of the reunion, I packed the projector, the USB, and a remote clicker into my tote bag. I wore a simple black dress and flats, nothing flashy. I wanted to look like the girl they wrote off, quiet, forgettable, let them underestimate me one last time. The lodge was decorated like a Pinterest board exploded. Fairy lights, pastel streamers, framed photos of London through the years. There was even a table with a guest book labelled Messages of Hope for London. I signed it. Hope you kept the receipts. Tea. People were already mingling when I walked in. I spotted Ruby near the buffet table, sipping from a wine glass. She gave me a small nod. Mum came over a minute later, arms wide. Tatum, look at you! I hugged her. She smelled like Chanel and a manipulation. You look beautiful, she said. London's upstairs getting ready. She's so excited you came. I wouldn't miss it. She beamed. We're doing the speeches after dinner. I'll introduce you before London's part. Perfect. Dinner was a blur. I barely tasted the food. I watched people laugh, clink glasses, take selfies in front of a floral backdrop that said resilience. Then Mom tapped her glass. Everyone, can I have your attention? The room quieted. Thank you all for being here to celebrate this incredible journey. London has faced challenges most of us could never imagine. But through faith, family and sacrifice, she's come out stronger. She looked at me when she said sacrifice. I smiled. She's a survivor, Mum continued. And before she speaks, her sister Tatum has something she'd like to share. I stood up, walked to the front and plugged in the USB. The projector flickered to life on the wall behind me. Hi, I said. Thanks for being here. I put together something to honour my sister's journey. It's called How I Paid to Save My Sister's Life. Click. The first slide came up. The beach photo. People smiled. Click. The invoice. Click. The bank transfer. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone coughed. This, I said, is what I gave up. My college fund. My future. Because I was told my sister was dying. Click. A photo of London in Bali. Click. A receipt from Glow House, Beverly Hills. Click. A screenshot of her Instagram comment. A little help from science, dolls. I turned to face the room. She wasn't sick. She got a nose job, lip fillers, spa trips, first-class flights to Monaco, and my mother helped her do it. She used her custodial rights to transfer my money without my consent. Gasps. One woman put her hand over her mouth. Click. Final slide. The email from Mitchell Aesthetics. Payment confirmed. Patient. London. Sender. Elizabeth. London stormed in from the hallway, heels clicking like gunshots. What the hell is this? I didn't flinch. The truth. Mum stood up, face white. Tatum, stop this right now. I already filed charges, I said. 3 weeks ago. Fraud. Identity theft. 2 subpoenas were sent this morning. The room exploded in whispers. I just thought, I said, if we're going to celebrate resilience, we should be honest about what it took. Ruby stood and walked to my side, quiet and steady. We'll let the authorities handle this, she said. But I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. I looked at London. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned and walked out. I clicked the projector off. The truth was out, and it was louder than any lie they'd ever told. The aftermath hit like a slow-moving train. People didn't rush out of the lodge. They lingered, whispering in tight circles, glancing between me and the now empty podium. Some looked stunned. Some looked like they wanted to clap but weren't sure if it was appropriate. I walked off the stage, past the stunned silence of my mother, and straight to the back of the room. Ruby followed. You okay? She asked, handing me a glass of water. Yeah, just waiting for the fallout. Don't worry, that's already started. I looked over and saw Aunt Denise cornering Mum by the dessert table, her voice sharp and low. A few cousins hovered nearby, listening. London was nowhere to be seen. I stepped outside for air. The night was cool, the lake behind the lodge still and black. I leaned against the railing and let myself breathe. Footsteps behind me. I turned. Dad. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, hands in his pockets, staring out at the water like it held answers. I saw the whole thing, he said quietly. I know. I should have stopped it, back then. I didn't respond. The silence stretched. I remember the day your mom asked you, he went on. I remember thinking, this isn't right, but I didn't say anything. I thought, maybe it was for the best. Maybe London really needed it. She didn't. I know that now. I turned to face him. You could have said something. You were the adult. You were my dad. I still am, he said, voice cracking. No, you're just a man who watched it happen. He flinched, but I didn't care. I walked past him and back inside. London had returned. She was standing near the bar, red-eyed but still trying to hold court. A few of her influencer friends hovered nearby, unsure if they should stay. I walked past her like she was invisible. The next day, the video was online. I didn't post it. I didn't need to. Someone at the reunion, probably one of the younger cousins, had recorded the whole thing. It hit TikTok first, then Twitter, then Instagram. The title was simple. Girl exposes her family's lies at recovery party. By noon, it had over 200,000 views. By nightfall, it passed 1 million. Comments flooded in. This is the most savage thing I've ever seen. Justice for Tatum. Karma wears heels and carries receipts. By the 3rd day, London's sponsors started dropping her. I got a text from Travis. Saw the video. Holy shit. Proud of you. 3 days after that, I got a call from a woman named Marla. She said she was a friend of Ruby's and ran a scholarship fund for women who'd faced family financial abuse. I saw your presentation, she said. I think you'd be a great candidate. I cried after I hung up. I hadn't cried in weeks. A week later, I packed my things. I was moving into a small studio near campus. Classes started in the fall. I was going back. The day before I left, my phone rang. Mum. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. Dad. I picked up. Hey, he said. Can we talk? I don't think there's anything left to say. I wanted to tell you I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. It's not. Okay, he said quietly. I understand. He didn't call again. London tried to DM me once. All it said was, "Incredible money. You ruined my life." I didn't reply. I screenshotted it and saved it in the folder labelled Proof. A week into school, I was walking across campus with a coffee when a girl stopped me. Hey, she said. Are you the one from the video? The family thing? I nodded, unsure what was coming. She smiled. You're a badass. Then she walked away. I stood there for a second, letting the words sink in. Badass. That wasn't what I felt like when I gave up everything. It wasn't what I felt like when I worked double shifts just to afford rent. It wasn't what I felt like when I sat alone on my birthday, watching London post spa selfies. But now? Yeah, maybe I was. I used to think karma would get them. Turns out, sometimes karma just needs a little push. Consider this a shove. The knock came at 7:42 a.m. I was halfway through a bowl of cereal in my new apartment, hair still wet from the shower, when someone banged on my door like they meant business. I opened it to find a woman in a navy blazer holding a clipboard. Behind her stood a man in a grey suit with a badge clipped to his belt. Are you Tatum? Yes. I'm Investigator Reed. This is Agent Hall. We're with the Financial Crimes Division. We just need to confirm a few details from your report. I blinked. Now? If you've got a minute. I stepped aside and let them in. They didn't sit. Reed flipped open her clipboard and scanned the top page. We've reviewed the documentation you submitted, bank transfers, email correspondence, and medical invoices. We've also received corroborating statements from a Travis Baker and a Ruby Hunt. I nodded. They were both there. They saw it happen. Hall pulled out a small tablet and tapped the screen. We've already issued a subpoena to Mitchell Aesthetics. We're waiting on the clinic's full payment records. But based on what we've seen so far, this qualifies as custodial fraud and identity misuse. She used my college fund, I said. I didn't even know she had access to it until I saw the transfer. Reed looked up. Your mother was listed as the custodial guardian on the account. Legally, she could access the funds, but only for your benefit. Cosmetic surgery for your sister doesn't qualify. She told me London was dying, I said. I gave it up because I thought I was saving her life. Reed's face softened. You're not the first person we've seen manipulated like this. But you're one of the few who documented it this thoroughly, Hall added. That presentation you gave. It's already circulating in legal circles. People are calling it textbook fraud exposure. I swallowed. What happens now? Reed closed the clipboard. We'll be in touch, but I can tell you this, there'll be consequences for both of them. They left as quickly as they came. By noon, I got a text from Ruby. Your mum just called me. She's panicking. Said someone from the States showed up at her door. I replied, good, she should panic. Later that evening, I got a call from Jenna, my old co-worker at the diner. Girl, have you seen London's Instagram? No. She went live. She's crying, like full meltdown, saying people are twisting the truth and trying to destroy her. I opened my phone and pulled it up. London's face filled the screen, mascara streaked, lips trembling, the background a sterile white wall that looked like a hotel. I never meant for this to happen, she was saying. People don't understand the pressure I was under, the pain I felt, I didn't lie. I didn't tell the whole story. The comments were brutal. You stole your sister's future. You're crying in a hotel while she worked 2 jobs. This is what entitlement looks like. The live ended abruptly. I turned off my phone and stared at the ceiling. The next day, I was walking across campus when someone tapped my shoulder. "Hey," said a guy in a hoodie. "You're Tatum, right?" I nodded. "I'm in your psych class. Just wanted to say what you did. That was brave." "Thanks." He smiled and kept walking. I got that a lot now. People recognizing me, whispering. A few even asked for interviews. I said no to all of them. I didn't want to be famous. I just wanted my life back. That weekend, I met Ruby for brunch. She slid into the booth, sunglasses on, and ordered a mimosa before even saying hello. "So," she said, "your mum's lawyer called me." I raised my eyebrows. "She's trying to claim she didn't understand the legal boundaries of the account, said it was a family decision." I laughed once. "A family of 2. She's scrambling. London's been dropped by 3 brands. One of them asked me for a statement." "What did you say?" "I told them the truth." Ruby sipped her drink and leaned in. "You know, when you were little, I always thought you were the quiet one, the soft one. But you've got steel in you, girl." "I learnt from the best," she smiled. "Damn right you did." After brunch, I walked back to my apartment and checked my email. There was a message from Marla, the woman from the scholarship fund. "Hi. Tatum, we've reviewed your application and are thrilled to offer you a full academic scholarship for the next 2 years. Your resilience and documentation were beyond impressive. Welcome aboard." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I called Kayla. "Hey," she said. "What's up?" "I got it, the scholarship." She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away. "Holy shit, you're a legend!" I laughed. "I'm just getting started." That night, I sat on my tiny balcony, sipping tea and watching the city lights flicker. They thought they could lie and move on. They thought I'd stay quiet, but I didn't. And I wouldn't. Because the truth doesn't just come out. Sometimes you have to drag it into the light. The lawyer's office smelled like lemon polish and tension. I sat across from a woman in a navy blouse who introduced herself as Ms. Carter. Her desk was lined with neat stacks of paper and a framed photo of a golden retriever. "Thanks for coming in, Tatum," she said, folding her hands. "We're representing the state in the matter of Elizabeth and London. I wanted to walk you through what's happening next." I nodded. "Okay." She pulled a folder from the stack and opened it. "We've confirmed the misuse of custodial funds. The paper trail is solid. Your mother's access to the account was legal, but only under the assumption she was acting in your best interest. Using the money for cosmetic surgery for your sister, that's a breach." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means we're pursuing charges, fraud, misappropriation of funds, and potential identity misuse, depending on how the documents were signed. And London. She benefited directly from the fraud. She's being investigated for complicity. If we can prove she knew the money was stolen, she could face charges too." I sat back in the chair, heart thudding. Ms. Carter gave me a small, measured smile. "I know this is a lot." "No," I said. "It's not enough." She nodded. "We'll do everything we can." That night, I got a text from my dad. "Can we talk, please, just once?" I stared at it for a while, then typed, "Fine, tomorrow, noon, coffee shop on 6th. The next day, I walked in and found him already sitting at a corner table, 2 coffees in front of him. He stood up as I approached. "Tatum." I sat down without hugging him. "You wanted to talk." He looked older, tired. His hands trembled slightly as he pushed the coffee toward me. "I know I failed you," he said. "You did." "I didn't stop her. I didn't protect you. I thought it would blow over, that you'd move on. I didn't. I see that now." I stared at him. "You watched it happen. You watched me give up everything. And you said nothing." "I was scared," he said quietly. "Your mother, she can be persuasive, controlling. She's a liar." He didn't argue. "I'm not here to forgive you," I said. "I'm here so you can say what you need to say. Then I'm done." He nodded. "I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And I'm proud of you. Even if I don't deserve to be." I stood. "You're right. You don't." I left the coffee untouched. When I got home, I opened Instagram. London's account was still active, though the follower count had dropped by nearly half. Her latest post was a black square with a caption, "Taking time to heal. Please respect my privacy." The comments were brutal. "You should have thought about that before you stole from your sister." "Healing from what? Getting caught?" "Tatum deserves better." I closed the app. Later that week, I got a call from a reporter. "Hi, I'm with Channel 7. We're doing a segment on financial abuse within families. Would you be willing to talk on record?" "No," I said. "But you can use the video. That's all anyone needs to see." The reporter thanked me and hung up. 2 days later, the story aired. They blurred my face but played the audio of my presentation. The segment ended with a quote from Ms. Carter. "This case is a reminder that even those closest to us can betray our trust. But justice doesn't always come quietly." I got messages all night from strangers. Some shared their own stories. Some just said thank you. One girl wrote, "You gave me the courage to confront my dad. I thought I was alone. I'm not. Thank you." I read that one twice. Ruby called the next morning. "Your mum got served," she said. "She tried to act like it was a mistake. Said she'd never intentionally harm her daughter. She signed the transfer." "Yeah. And now she's facing real consequences." I leaned against the wall, staring out the window. "She's still your mother," Ruby said gently. "She was supposed to be mine, not just London's." "I know." We were quiet for a moment. "You did the right thing," she said. "I know." That weekend, I walked past a bookstore downtown and saw a display in the window. "Reclaiming Power: Stories of Financial Abuse and Recovery." Inside, a flyer taped to the wall announced a panel discussion. My name was listed among the speakers. I hadn't agreed to it yet. I took the flyer down and folded it into my pocket. Outside, the air smelled like rain. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew one thing. They thought they could bury me, but I was never the one who needed hiding. They were. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No towering ceilings or dramatic lighting, just beige walls, squeaky chairs, and a judge who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Still, it was real, and it was happening. I sat in the front row with Ruby beside me. She wore her signature red lipstick and a blazer sharp enough to cut glass. She didn't say much, just rested her hand on mine when the bailiff called the session to order. Mum walked in first. Her heels tapped across the tile like she still thought this was a brunch. She wore a navy dress and her pearls. She didn't look at me. London followed, head down, sunglasses still on indoors. Her hair was pulled back tight, and for once, her face didn't look camera-ready. They sat at the defendant's table. Their lawyer whispered something, and Mum nodded without blinking. The judge cleared his throat. "We're here today to address charges of custodial fraud and unauthorised use of funds belonging to Tatum." He paused, glanced at the paperwork. "The plaintiff." I didn't flinch. I just stared straight ahead. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honour, we have documented evidence of a custodial account being misused by the guardian, Elizabeth, and the funds being funneled directly into elective cosmetic procedures for the benefit of her other daughter, London. The plaintiff was misled under false pretences of a medical emergency. We have bank records, signed transfers, and corroborating testimony." He clicked a remote. The screen behind him lit up. Slide 1. The same beach photo of me in London. A few people in the courtroom murmured. Slide 2. The invoice from Mitchell Aesthetics. Slide 3. The transfer from my college fund. The judge looked over his glasses. "Is this accurate?" Mum stood. "Your Honour, I didn't." "Please answer yes or no." She hesitated. "Yes." "But I didn't mean—" "Thank you, sit down." London shifted in her seat, arms crossed tight. The judge turned to me. "Do you wish to speak?" I stood. My voice was steady. "I was 18. I had a full ride waiting at State, but it didn't cover everything. My parents set up a fund for the rest. When my mom told me my sister was dying, I gave it up. I thought I was saving someone's life." I looked at London. She wasn't dying. She was getting a new nose, and a new face, and a new life, funded by mine. I sat down. The room was silent. The judge leaned back. "I've reviewed the evidence. It's clear this was not an honest mistake. The misuse of custodial funds is a serious offence. I'm referring this case to civil court for restitution and ordering a full review of Elizabeth's financial activities." Mum's mouth fell open. "As for London," the judge continued, will determine her level of involvement during the civil proceedings. But let me be clear, benefiting from fraud, even passively, carries weight. He banged the gavel once. Court adjourned! Outside, reporters waited. I kept walking. Ruby caught up to me on the steps. You did it. I know. She smiled. You want to get pancakes? I want to sleep for a week. We laughed. Later that night, I got a call from a number I didn't recognise. Hello? Tatum? London. I didn't say anything. I wanted to say I didn't know it would go this far. You knew what you were spending. I didn't think they'd come after us like this. I'm losing everything. My brand deals, my followers. You stole from me. I didn't take it. Mom did. You spent it. There was a pause. I was jealous, she said quietly. You were always the smart one, the one with a future. I wanted something that was mine. You took mine. I know. I waited. I'm sorry, she said. I hung up. No rage, no tears, just a click. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need anything from her anymore. The next morning, I walked into class with my laptop under one arm and a coffee in my hand. A girl I barely knew waved me over. Hey, she said. You're Tatum, right? Yeah. I saw your story. My cousin went through something similar. You're kind of a hero in our group chat. I laughed. I'll take it. She smiled. Want to sit with us? Sure. I slid into the seat beside her and opened my laptop. Life didn't magically fix itself. I still had bills. I still had late-night study sessions and cheap takeout and roommates who left dishes in the sink. But I had something else now too. Peace. I used to think karma would get them. Turns out sometimes karma wears heels, carries a flash drive and doesn't flinch, and sometimes it's not karma at all. It's just me.
You've always been so emotional, Clara. That's why this decision is better left to people who can be more objective. Sylvia's words dropped like ice cubes into hot oil, splattering my chest with invisible burns. I stared at her across the long mahogany dining table, the kind with a centerpiece no one ever touches and chairs no one ever relaxes in. Her pearls gleamed under the chandelier, and her smile was so polite it made me want to scream. My name is Clara, and I've sat through a lot of fake dinners in this house. But tonight I knew something was coming. I just didn't know how far they'd go. Samuel sat next to me, his hand resting on my thigh like a paperweight. I could feel the heat of his palm, but not the comfort. He wasn't looking at me. He was watching his father, who was unfolding a stack of papers with a slow, deliberate precision, like they were sacred. Martin cleared his throat. We've been thinking about Lisa's care fund. It's a substantial amount, and with the right oversight, it could go even further. I blinked. Further than what? It's not an investment portfolio. It's for her therapy, her equipment, her... Exactly, Sylvia cut in, nodding like it was her idea. And we can help with that. We know people. We can maximize its potential. I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Maximize? She's not a business venture. She's my sister. Samuel finally looked at me. Clara, no one's saying she isn't, but you're too close to this. You're not thinking long term. I turned to him slowly. You mean like when I changed her feeding tubes at 2 a.m. for 6 years? Or when I fought the insurance company for 6 months to cover her new wheelchair? That kind of too close. His jaw tensed. You're being defensive. And you're being a coward, I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. The room went silent except for the faint clinking of Sylvia's fork against her untouched salad. Martin slid the papers toward me. This is just a transfer of guardianship over the fund. You'll still be her legal guardian. But the financial side, well, it's better handled by professionals. Professionals like you? I asked, my voice flat. Sylvia's smile didn't falter. It's not personal, dear. It's just what's best for Lisa. I looked down at the papers. The legalese blurred together, but I recognized the structure. They wanted control of the trust, full financial authority, and they thought I'd just hand it over. Samuel's hand pressed harder against my leg. Clara, Sign it. I turned to him. Just like that? He nodded. It's not a big deal. I stared at him. Really stared. The man I married. The man who once said he loved how fiercely I protected Lisa. The man who now sat beside me, siding with people who saw my sister as a liability. I reached for the pen. Sylvia's eyes lit up. You're doing the right thing. I signed. One stroke at a time. My signature neat and slow, like I had all the time in the world. When I finished, I looked up and smiled. You're right, I said, handing the papers back. It's better this way. Sylvia exhaled like she'd just won a war. You won't regret this. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Oh, I'm sure I won't. Samuel looked relieved. See? That wasn't so hard. I leaned down, kissed him lightly on the cheek. Not hard at all. Then I picked up my phone from under the napkin beside my plate, slid it into my purse, and walked out of the dining room. They didn't know what I knew. They didn't know that 2 weeks ago, I found encrypted messages between Samuel and his parents, that I'd seen the bank account inquiries, the subtle shifts in his behavior, the way he started asking about Lisa's expenses like it was his business. They didn't know I'd already moved the money. They didn't know I'd already restructured the fund under a bulletproof trust with a lawyer who specialized in disability protections. And they definitely didn't know that the entire dinner, every word, every manipulative suggestion, every smug little nudge, was recorded. I stepped into the cool night air, the quiet hum of crickets greeting me like old friends. My heart was pounding, but not from fear, from rage, from clarity, from the kind of calm that comes right before the storm. I got into my car, started the engine, and called Iris. It's done, I said. She whistled. You signed? Yep. And the recording? Crystal clear, every word. There was a pause. You okay? I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes were steady. My mouth, a line of steel. They think they won, I said. Let them, Iris replied. I hung up and drove home. Lisa was already asleep when I got in. Her breathing was soft and rhythmic, the kind of sound that reminded me why I fought so hard. I sat beside her bed, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. They think they can take you from me, I whispered. But they don't know who they're dealing with. I kissed her cheek and stood up. Tomorrow the real game would begin. The first time I noticed something was off, Samuel left his phone face down on the kitchen counter. He never did that, not unless he was hiding something. I was chopping vegetables for dinner, Lisa humming softly in her chair behind me, when his phone lit up. The preview flashed a name I didn't recognize, M. Harris. And a message. She doesn't suspect a thing. I'll get her to sign by next week. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. That one message told me everything. That night, after Samuel fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and called Iris. You were right, I whispered into the phone. They're planning something. Okay, she said, instantly alert. We're not waiting. I'm putting you in touch with someone tomorrow. Trust me, you'll want him on your side. The next day, I met Duncan in a small office above a bakery downtown. No fancy suits, no marble floors, just a man in rolled-up sleeves and a shelf full of disability law books. He shook my hand firmly. Iris said you're in a situation. I slid a folder across the table. My sister's trust fund. My husband and his parents are trying to take control of it. They say I'm too emotional to manage it. Duncan opened the folder, flipping through the documents. Is your sister under your legal guardianship? Yes, fully. I've been her caregiver since we lost our parents. He nodded. Then they don't have a leg to stand on. But we're not just going to defend. We're going to make sure they can't touch a penny. He explained the steps. We'd restructure the fund into a special needs trust, fully protected and legally insulated. I'd remain the sole trustee, with built-in oversight to satisfy any court. And best of all, completely invisible to anyone who wasn't authorized. "They'll think they've won," Duncan said, tapping the table. "Let them. That's when they get sloppy." I signed the documents with shaking hands. Not from fear, from adrenaline. Back at home, I started planting seeds. I left my phone out more often. I asked Samuel vague questions about money. I acted confused when he mentioned long-term planning. I let him think I was tired, overwhelmed, vulnerable. And I installed voice recorders, one under the dining room table, another in the living room lamp, a third in my home office, tucked behind a stack of books. I didn't care about the ethics. They were coming for Lisa's future. There was no line I wouldn't cross. A week later, I met Iris at our usual coffee spot. "You ready for this?" she asked, sipping her iced latte. "They're planning a dinner," I said. "Sylvia invited me like it was a casual get-together, but I know they're going to pull the trigger." Iris smirked. "You going to let them?" "Oh, I'm going to let them think they did." We went over the plan again. I'd sign the papers, smile, play the part, then let them walk straight into the trap. The night of the dinner, I dressed carefully. Conservative, soft colors. Nothing that said war. I tucked my phone under a napkin on the table before anyone else arrived. The recorder was already running. Samuel kissed my cheek like everything was normal. Sylvia complimented my dress. Martin poured wine. It was all rehearsed. A performance, and I played my role perfectly. When they slid the papers across the table, I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I signed with a smile, handed the pen back, and watched their faces light up like they'd just won the lottery. They had no idea the money was already gone. That night, after I left the Harris estate, I went home and backed up everything. The audio files, the signed documents, the messages from Samuel's phone I'd quietly photographed. I sent copies to Iris, to Duncan, to a secure cloud folder only I could access. Lisa was asleep again when I walked into her room. I sat on the edge of her bed and took her hand. "They think they're clever," I said softly, "but they're not." She squeezed my fingers, just once, her way of saying she understood. The next morning, I made pancakes. Lisa giggled when I flipped one too high, and it almost hit the ceiling. I was still laughing when Samuel walked into the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear, his face pale. "What's wrong?" I asked, loading syrup onto a plate. He didn't answer. Just stared at me, then at Lisa, then back at me. I knew that look. They'd called the bank, and found nothing. "Everything okay?" I asked again, sweet as sugar. He hung up without a word and walked out. I turned back to Lisa, cutting her pancake into small pieces. "Game on," I whispered. Samuel's voice echoed down the hallway before I even saw him. "What do you mean there's no access? That's impossible." I stood in the kitchen, calmly drying a plate. Lisa was in the living room, watching her favorite cartoon, oblivious to the storm brewing in the next room. He stormed in, phone still pressed to his ear. "Yes, I'm the secondary contact. My wife signed over the authority last night. Check again." He paused, listening, then slammed the phone onto the counter. "They said the account's locked, that there's no record of the transfer." I raised an eyebrow. "That's strange." Samuel turned on me. "What did you do?" "I signed the papers, remember? Just like you asked." He stepped closer. "Don't play dumb. That money was supposed to be moved." "Was it?" I said, folding the towel slowly. "Because from what I remember, it was for Lisa's care, not for your parents to play Monopoly with." His jaw clenched. "You lied." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "I protected my sister." Before he could answer, the front door burst open. Sylvia and Martin walked in like they owned the place. "Where is she?" Sylvia snapped. "Excuse me?" I said, walking toward them. "The trust. You said you transferred it." "I signed your papers," I said lightly. "But I never said they meant anything." Martin's face turned red. You forged your signature? Nope. I signed them. But the trust was restructured weeks ago. Legally. Irrevocably. You have no access. Sylvia's voice cracked. That's fraud. I laughed. Is it? Because I have a lawyer who says otherwise. And I have recordings. Her face twisted. What recordings? From last night. From your little speech about how I'm too emotional to make decisions. From the part where you all admitted you were planning this for weeks. Samuel looked like he'd been punched. You recorded us? I walked to my office, opened the drawer, and pulled out a small speaker. I hit play.
Sylvia's voice filled the room. She's too attached. We'll handle it better. This is for the best. Then Martin. She won't fight it. She's not that smart. Then Samuel. She'll sign. I'll make sure of it. I hit stop. Silence. Sylvia's hands were shaking. You can't use that in court. I smiled. Actually, I can. I consulted a lawyer before I did anything. Everything was done under legal guidance. You might want to brush up on the laws around consent and financial manipulation.
Martin stepped forward. You're going to regret this. Are you threatening me in my own home? I asked, tilting my head. Because I can add that to the report. Sylvia looked at Samuel. Do something. He didn't move. He just stared at the floor, hands in his pockets. I walked past them and sat beside Lisa, who was still watching TV, unaware of the chaos. I think it's time you all left, I said. Sylvia's voice was low and venomous. You'll be hearing from our attorney. I'm counting on it. They left in silence, the door slamming behind them. Samuel lingered. You really did all this behind my back? He asked. You really thought I wouldn't? I replied. He looked at Lisa, then at me. You don't have to do this. We can fix it. I stood up. No, Samuel. You broke it. And now you're going to watch me fix it without you. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He walked out without another word. I picked up my phone and called Duncan. They tried to access the account, I said. He chuckled. Let me guess. They hit a wall. A big one. And I played the recordings. Good, he said. They'll probably try to file something anyway. But we're ready. I hope they do, I said. I want this on record. He paused. Just be careful, Clara. People like that don't like losing. I'm not afraid of them, I said. That night I sat with Lisa on the couch, her head resting on my shoulder. The house was quiet again, but my mind was racing. They thought I was weak. They thought I'd fold. But they forgot one thing. I've been fighting for Lisa her whole life, and I'm just getting started. I was folding laundry when Samuel knocked on the bedroom door like he lived in someone else's house. Can we talk? He asked, voice soft. I didn't look up. You're already talking. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets, eyes darting to the basket of Lisa's clothes on the bed. I feel like things got out of hand. I dropped a folded shirt into the pile. You mean when your parents tried to steal from my disabled sister? He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? I turned to face him. You sat there while they called me unstable and told me I wasn't fit to handle her care. You didn't say a word. I was trying to keep the peace. No, I said. You were trying to stay in their good graces. He sighed. They just want what's best for the family. I stared at him. Lisa is my family. You made it clear she never counted to yours. He sat on the edge of the bed. Can we start over? I'm serious. No more secrets. I crossed my arms. You're about 3 betrayals too late. He looked up at me, eyes glossy. I miss us. I didn't reply. I picked up the laundry basket and walked out. That afternoon, I got a message from an old acquaintance, Jessica. We'd met years ago at a Harris family event, bonded over awkward small talk and wine. She'd once pulled me aside when I first got engaged to Samuel and said, "Be careful. They don't like women they can't control." I hadn't listened then. I was listening now. Her message was simple. I heard what happened. I have something you need to know. We met at a quiet cafe off Main Street. She looked older, sharper. There was something in her eyes. Regret, maybe. They tried this before, she said, stirring her tea. With my cousin. She had Down syndrome. Her parents left a small trust for her after they passed. I leaned in. What happened? Jessica's jaw tightened. Sylvia convinced the girl's aunt to hand over control. Said she'd invest it, grow it. Within a year, the money was gone. All of it. Gone where? No one knows. The aunt tried to sue, but Sylvia claimed it was a market crash. Said she'd done everything legally. They buried it. I sat back, cold spreading through my chest. Why didn't you say anything before? I tried. Remember that wedding? I pulled you aside, but you were glowing and in love, and I didn't want to be the bitter friend. You should have said it anyway. I know, she said. That's why I'm saying it now. I left with a signed statement from Jessica and a file of old emails she'd saved. Ones that showed Sylvia manipulating financial decisions, pushing people into signing things they didn't understand. When I got home, Iris was already waiting on my porch. You're not going to like this, she said, holding up a manila envelope. What now? She handed it to me. They filed a lawsuit. Fraud and mismanagement of funds. I opened it. Legal jargon, court dates, accusations. My stomach turned. They're accusing you of stealing from Lisa, Iris said, trying to flip the narrative. I laughed, but it sounded hollow. Of course they are. We'll fight it, she said. You have everything on your side. The recordings, the documents, Jessica's statement. They're grasping at straws. Inside, Lisa was in her chair playing with a stuffed rabbit. She looked up and smiled when I walked in. I knelt beside her. They're still trying, baby. But we're not backing down. That night, I sat with Iris on the back porch while Lisa slept. I don't get it, I said. Why go this far? What do they even want? Iris lit a cigarette, something she only did when she was really pissed. Control, power, and probably money. People like them don't see people like Lisa as human. They see her as an asset. I looked out at the dark yard. I should have seen it sooner. You saw it when it mattered, she said. You're not just protecting her. You're setting a precedent. If they get away with this, they'll do it again. I nodded. Then we burn it all down. The next morning, a woman from the court showed up. A social worker, appointed to evaluate Lisa's care. Samuel must have filed a concern. I let her in, showed her Lisa's therapy room, her feeding schedule, her medical files. Lisa smiled at her, even let her hold her hand. After an hour, the woman looked at me and said, Whatever they told the court, it doesn't match what I see here. Thank you, I said, holding back tears. She smiled. You're doing everything right. After she left, I sat on the floor in Lisa's room and finally let myself cry. Not because I was scared, because I was tired, because I loved my sister more than anyone, and I was so damn tired of proving it. Iris came over later with takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat on the couch, Lisa between us, her head on my shoulder. They're going to regret this, Iris said. I looked at my sister, then at her. They already do. Duncan dropped the stack of documents on my kitchen table with a thud. That's everything, he said. Bank statements, the new trust structure, emails, witness statements. We're ready. I scanned the top page. And the recordings? Labeled, time-stamped, and transcribed. You did good, Clara. Lisa was in her chair by the window, watching the birds outside. She turned her head slightly when Duncan spoke, and he gave her a warm smile. We're going to make sure no one ever touches your money again, sweetheart. I touched her shoulder, then looked at Duncan. They're not going to back down, are they? No, but we'll bury them in truth. He packed up and promised to file everything first thing in the morning.
After he left, I went to the kitchen to start dinner. I had just set water to boil when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Clara? A woman's voice said. This is Amy, Lisa's nurse. I got a call from your husband today. I froze. What did he say? He asked questions about Lisa's care. If I'd noticed anything off. If you ever seemed overwhelmed or unstable.
I gripped the counter. He's trying to build a case. I told him everything's fine, that Lisa's thriving, that you're the most dedicated caregiver I've ever worked with. Thank you, I said quietly. I just thought you should know. Something about his tone. It didn't feel right. After we hung up, I sat down and stared at the floor. This wasn't just about money anymore. Samuel was trying to paint me as unfit. He was going to drag my name through the mud to get what he wanted. Iris came over an hour later, holding a folder. Got something, she said, walking straight to the table. Look at this. She pulled out a document, a property deed. Martin took out a second mortgage on their vacation home 3 years ago, she said. But the loan was backed by assets he didn't actually own. I frowned. That's fraud. Exactly. And guess what? He listed Lisa's trust fund as a family asset in the application. My stomach dropped. He used her name? Not directly. Just dependent family trust. But it's enough. He was planning this for a while. I stared at the paper. They're in deeper than we thought. Iris nodded. They're desperate. That's why they're coming after you so hard. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it all pressing down. I can't believe I married into this, I said. Iris looked at me. You loved him. I thought I did. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You loved the version of him he showed you. That's not your fault. I nodded, blinking fast. Later that night, after Lisa was asleep, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine. Iris had gone home, and the house was quiet again. I scrolled through old photos on my phone, me and Samuel at the beach, laughing, him holding Lisa's hand at Christmas. Fake moments, or maybe real ones once. I didn't know anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Duncan. Evaluator cleared your household. Report filed. You're in the clear. I exhaled. The next morning, I walked into Duncan's office with a new fire in my chest. They want to fight? I said. Let's give them one. He smiled. That's what I like to hear. We filed a counter motion, a restraining order against the Harris family. No contact with Lisa. No access to the trust. No interference of any kind. We submitted every recording, every email, every document. Jessica's statement, the nurse's testimony, the mortgage fraud. We didn't just build a defense. We built a wrecking ball. That afternoon, I got a call from Samuel. I need to see you, he said, voice hoarse. Why? Please, just one conversation. I agreed, but only in public. We met at a park near downtown, open space, lots of people. I sat on a bench. He showed up late, eyes bloodshot, tie loose, hair a mess. He sat beside me without a word. What do you want, Samuel? He rubbed his face. I messed up. I said nothing. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought we could control it, that we could help. You wanted to help? I snapped. By stealing from a woman who can't speak for herself? He looked down. I'm being investigated. At work. Insider trading. Someone tipped them off. I raised an eyebrow. That sounds serious. I could lose everything. I turned to him. You already did. He looked at me, eyes pleading. Clara, can you fix this? I stood up. You called me too emotional, but you want me to clean up your mess? He didn't answer. I leaned in, my voice low. You tried to take everything from me, from Lisa. And now you want mercy? He looked away. I walked off without saying another word. Some bridges don't burn. They explode. "You're sure you want to do this?" Duncan asked, sliding the thick packet across his desk. I picked it up, flipped through the pages. "Absolutely." We were filing the restraining order today, against Sylvia, Martin, and Samuel. It covered Lisa, the trust, and me. No contact, no interference, no loopholes. Duncan tapped the packet. "This will go public. They'll get served. Their names will be on record." "Good," I said. "Let them explain that to their country club friends." He smiled slowly. "Let's ruin their afternoon." By the time I got home, the process server had already done his job. Sylvia called me 3 times. I didn't answer. Then Martin tried. Then Samuel. I blocked them all. An hour later, Iris showed up with a USB drive and a grin. "You're going to want to see this." We sat at my kitchen table. Lisa was in her therapy swing, humming softly. Iris plugged the drive into my laptop and opened a folder labeled Public Image. "These are community board emails," she said. "Sylvia's on the board for that arts foundation, right?" I nodded. "Well, turns out they don't like being associated with lawsuits involving disabled people, especially when there are recordings." She clicked a file. A forwarded email popped up. "Given the recent legal matter involving Mrs. Harris and the trust of a dependent adult, we will be suspending her role on the board effective immediately." I leaned back in my chair. "She's out?" "Completely. And Martin's business partner just pulled out of a project after the mortgage fraud came up. They're hemorrhaging." Iris opened another file. "And Samuel? His firm placed him on indefinite leave. There's an internal investigation now." I stared at the screen. "All of this, it's actually working." "Clara," she said, "you didn't just protect Lisa. You exposed them. People like that count on silence." That night, I finally let myself breathe. Not relax, just breathe. Until the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Samuel. Drunk, red-eyed, slurring. "Please," he said. "You have to help me." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "You shouldn't be here. I lost everything," he said, swaying slightly. "My job. My parents won't talk to me. I'm under investigation. Clara, I'm ruined." "You did that to yourself." "I didn't know they'd go this far," he whispered. "They told me it was just a formality, that we'd help Lisa, that you'd be okay." I stared at him. "You sat there while they planned to steal from her. You called me unstable. You tried to make the nurse question me." He sank onto the porch steps. "I don't even know who I am anymore." "I do," I said. "You're a man who let his family destroy everything good in his life because he was too weak to stand up to them." He looked up at me, eyes glassy. "I loved you." "No," I said. "You loved control. And when you lost it, you chose them." He reached for my hand. "Clara, please." I stepped back. "You need to leave. Now." He stood slowly, stumbled, then walked down the steps and into the night. I locked the door behind him and leaned against it, heart pounding. The next morning, Duncan called. "Court date is set. 2 weeks." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "We'll be ready." He paused. "You okay?" "Getting there." 2 weeks passed in a blur. Prep meetings, witness calls, final paperwork. Jessica agreed to testify in person. Amy, Lisa's nurse, wrote a glowing affidavit. The court-appointed evaluator submitted her report. Clara provides exceptional care in a loving, stable environment. The morning of the hearing, I dressed Lisa in her favorite yellow sweater. I wore black. Not for mourning, for clarity. Iris picked us up, her car already stocked with snacks and water bottles. "You ready to end this?" she asked. I looked at Lisa in the back seat, smiling at her reflection in the window. "Let's finish it." When we walked into the courthouse, Sylvia and Martin were already there. Sylvia wore a stiff navy suit and a frozen smile. Martin didn't look at me. Samuel sat behind them, alone. The hearing started. Duncan laid everything out, chronologically, clearly, with receipts. Literally. He played the recordings. He showed the trust restructuring. He submitted the mortgage documents, the board emails, Jessica's statement. Sylvia's lawyer tried to argue concern for Lisa's future. Duncan countered with, then why attempt to access the trust before the ink was dry? The judge listened, stone-faced. Then it was my turn. I stood. My hands didn't shake. I've cared for my sister since I was 19. I changed her feeding tubes. I fought for her therapies. I've never missed a single appointment. The only time she's ever been in a hospital is when her spine surgery got scheduled early. She is my family, and I will never let anyone use her for profit or power. Silence. The judge looked at the Harrises. Then the verdict came. Restraining order granted. Permanent. Sylvia and Martin, barred from contacting Lisa or accessing the trust. Samuel, no legal standing, no access, no rights. I was reaffirmed as sole guardian and trustee. Outside the courtroom, Samuel followed me down the steps. Clara, I turned to him. You called me too emotional, I said. Funny. That's the only thing that kept me from burying you further. He didn't reply. He just watched me walk away. The courthouse hallway was too cold, too quiet. My heels clicked against the tile as I walked beside Duncan. Lisa's care binder clutched tight in my arms. Iris followed close behind, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages from reporters and legal contacts. They're already asking for statements, she whispered. Let them wait, I said. Inside the courtroom, Sylvia sat stiff-backed, her lips pressed into a line so tight it looked painful. Martin sat beside her, his face pale, eyes darting around like he was looking for an exit. Samuel was alone again, slumped in the back row, a shadow of the man I used to know. The judge entered. We all stood. Let's proceed, she said, her voice even. Duncan stepped forward first. Your Honor, we're submitting final evidence of the trust's legal restructuring, along with documentation of recorded conversations, financial misconduct, and prior incidents of exploitation involving the plaintiffs. He handed over a thick folder. The judge flipped through it without a word. Then Sylvia's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my clients maintain that their intentions were in the best interest of the dependent party. They were misled, manipulated, and the judge raised a hand. I've reviewed the evidence. The recordings speak for themselves. Sylvia shifted in her seat. Martin looked like he might be sick. Mrs. Harris, the judge said, turning to me, you've proven beyond doubt that your sister's care has been consistent, loving, and legally sound. The plaintiff's actions show a pattern of manipulation and self-interest. She paused. This court grants full and permanent guardianship and financial control to Clara. The restraining order will remain in place indefinitely. The plaintiffs are barred from any future contact with Lisa or involvement in her care or trust. Sylvia gasped. Martin said nothing. Samuel lowered his head into his hands. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside, reporters were already gathering. Iris stepped in front of me. No comment, she said firmly, shielding me and Lisa as we walked down the steps. I didn't stop until we reached the car. I opened the door, helped Lisa in, and fastened her belt. She looked up at me and smiled, her eyes bright. We did it, I whispered, brushing her hair back. Iris opened the passenger door. You want me to drive? No, I said. I want to feel the road. We pulled away from the courthouse, the chaos fading behind us. I drove to our favorite park, the one with the ducks and the wide, flat paths. I parked under a tree and helped Lisa out of the car. She giggled as the wind caught her scarf. We sat on a bench. Just us. Iris joined a few minutes later, holding 2 coffees. You didn't just win, she said. You buried them.
They buried themselves, I said. I just handed them the shovel. She laughed, then turned serious. You sure you're okay? I nodded. I'm just tired. But yeah, I'm okay. We sat in silence for a while, watching Lisa laugh at a squirrel trying to steal a chip bag from the trash can. Then I saw him. Samuel. He stood at the edge of the parking lot, hands in his pockets, eyes locked on us. He looked like hell, suit wrinkled, face hollow. I stood. Clara, Iris warned. I've got it. I walked toward him, stopping a few feet away. You shouldn't be here, I said. I know, he replied. I needed to see you. One last time. I crossed my arms. Why? He looked past me at Lisa. Because I forgot what this was all about. I got caught up in their world. I let them convince me that money mattered more than people. I didn't respond. I lost everything, he said, and I deserve that. But you didn't. You never did. He took a step forward. I'm sorry. I held up a hand. Don't. You don't get to apologize and walk away feeling lighter. You let them try to destroy us. He nodded. I know. You let them use her name on a mortgage. You tried to make me look unfit. You stood in that courtroom and said nothing. I know, he said again, voice cracking. I turned to go. Clara, he said, I loved you. I looked back once. I loved who I thought you were. Then I walked away. Iris was waiting with a look that said, You okay? I nodded. Samuel got in his car and drove off. Back at the bench, Lisa reached for my hand. I took it, squeezing gently. You're safe now, I said. They can't touch us. She smiled, resting her head on my shoulder. For the first time in months, I let myself relax. Not because the fight was over, but because we'd won. The movers had just finished unloading the last box when Lisa let out a soft squeal from her chair. Her eyes were locked on the window in front of her, where sunlight streamed through sheer lavender curtains and spilled across the hardwood floor. I know, I said, smiling. It's brighter, isn't it? She flapped her hand excitedly, her version of applause. The therapy room was finally done. Soft foam mats, a new adjustable bed, shelves filled with sensory toys and books. No more narrow hallways, no more creaky steps. Just space, light, and peace. I stepped out into the living room, where Iris was crouched over a pile of cords, trying to set up the Wi-Fi. Remind me again why we didn't just hire someone to do this? She muttered. Because you're too stubborn to let a stranger touch your router, I said, dropping onto the couch. She rolled her eyes. Fair. The new house was smaller, but it was ours. No more shared property. No more Harris family mail showing up at my door. Just me, Lisa, and a front porch with enough space for morning coffee. You get the divorce papers signed? Iris asked, finally standing up and wiping her hands on her jeans. Yesterday. He didn't contest anything, just signed and sent them back. She raised an eyebrow. No final speech? No last-minute plea? He left a note. Said he hoped I'd find peace. Iris snorted. He should have hoped for a good lawyer. I laughed, and it felt real this time. Deep, from the chest. Not a reflex. Not a mask. There was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Duncan holding a thick manila envelope. Thought I'd drop this off in person, he said. I let him in, and he handed me the file. What is it? Final trust paperwork. Sealed, secured, and backed by a third-party oversight board. No one can touch it but you. I flipped through the pages, scanning the signatures and stamps. You did good, Clara, he said. You didn't just protect Lisa. You set a legal precedent. This case? It's being cited in 2 other states already. I looked up. Seriously? He nodded. Families trying to take over dependent trusts. Lawyers are using your case to fight back. Iris let out a low whistle. Guess you're famous now. Not famous, I said.
just loud enough to be heard. Duncan smiled. You need anything else? You call me. Otherwise, enjoy the quiet. He left, and I stood there for a moment, holding the file like it was something sacred. Iris came to stand beside me. You know, she said, we could do more with this. With what? This story. The legal process. The way you handled it. We could build something. Resources, workshops, even a support group. You're not the only one this has happened to. I looked at her. You want to start a war? She grinned. No, I want to start a movement. I looked over at Lisa, who was now spinning her favorite sensory light toy, the colors dancing across her face. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Later that evening, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea while Lisa napped inside. The sun was setting, casting gold across the yard. Iris sat beside me, laptop open, already drafting ideas. We'll need a name, she said. Something strong, I replied. Something that says, don't mess with us. She typed a few words, then deleted them. We'll figure it out. I sipped my tea. You really think people will listen? They already are, she said. Every time someone Googles your case, they're learning how to fight back. I nodded slowly. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was building something. Lisa stirred inside, letting out a soft sound. I stood, walked back in, and kissed her forehead. They tried to salt the earth around us, baby, I whispered. She smiled in her sleep, peaceful. But they didn't know. We'd grown in drought before.
The night my family stole my future, my mother served pot roast. I remember because the meat was tough and stringy, just like the lies they fed me. The scholarship letter still sat in my purse, crisp and perfect, while my hands shook under the dining room table. My name is Reagan, and this is the story of how I learned that family can be your worst enemy. Reagan, dear, we need to discuss something important, Mum said, cutting her meat with precise, bird-like movements. About your scholarship. I beamed, still riding the high of my acceptance. Full ride to MIT's computer science program. 4 years of perfect grades, countless sleepless nights coding, and endless academic competitions had finally paid off. I know, I can't wait to... Abel needs it more than you do. The words hit like a slap. I looked at my brother, slumped in his chair, pushing food around his plate. He couldn't even meet my eyes. What? My voice came out small, childlike. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been discussing this. Abel's startup ideas need proper credentials behind them. As the man of the family, he'll have more responsibilities. But I earned it, I whispered. My grades, my work. Oh, honey. Mum's smile was saccharine sweet. You're so smart, you'll figure something else out. Community college is always an option. Besides, you'll probably just get married in a few years anyway. The room started spinning. Abel barely passed high school. He dropped out of community college twice. Watch your tone, Dad warned. Abel finally spoke up. Come on, sis. You know I need this. My ideas could really take off with the right degree backing them. Your ideas, I laughed, harsh and hollow. You mean like the app concept you stole from my journal last year? The one you pitched at that tech meetup as your own? Mum's fork clattered against her plate. That's enough. We've already spoken to the university. The scholarship transfer papers just need your signature. You what? The words came out as a whisper. It's all arranged, Dad said. The dean understands our situation. Family comes first, Reagan. I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. Family? Is that what you call this? Sit down, Mum hissed. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? My voice rose. I worked my ass off for that scholarship. 4 years of perfect grades while Abel played video games. 3 different coding competitions I won while he copied my homework. And now you're just giving it to him? Language, Mum snapped. This attitude is exactly why... Why what? Why I don't deserve what I earned? Because I'm not your precious son? Abel at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. Sis, come on. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Mum called after me. The papers need to be signed by Friday. I turned back one last time. You know what? I'll sign them. But remember this moment. Remember exactly what you did here. Where are you going? Dad demanded. To figure something else out. Isn't that what smart girls do? I slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. In my car, I pulled out the acceptance letter, tracing the MIT letterhead with trembling fingers. Then I started the engine and drove away from everything I'd ever known. The next morning, I walked into the dean's office wearing yesterday's clothes and signed away my scholarship. The dean, an older man with kind eyes, looked at me with pity. Are you sure about this, Miss Jackson? Your application was exceptional. I thought about Mum's smug smile, Dad's dismissal, Abel's entitled slouch. No choice, sir. Family comes first, right? He frowned. There are other options we could discuss. No. I stood up, shoulders straight. But I'd like to keep my acceptance letter, if that's okay. As a reminder. Of what? I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. That sometimes the long way around is the only way forward. Walking out of that office, I had nothing but my car, $200 in savings, and a burning rage in my chest that felt like it could power a small city. I didn't know then that rage would fuel an empire. I didn't know I'd spend the next 8 years plotting the perfect revenge. I just knew I'd never let anyone steal what was mine again. My phone buzzed, Mum calling. I declined and blocked the number. Then Abel's name popped up. Don't be stupid. Just come home. I typed back 3 words. Watch me succeed. Then I blocked him too, started my car and drove toward the unknown. I didn't have a plan. Just rage. And sometimes, that's enough. Living in your car isn't as romantic as movies make it seem. After 2 weeks of parking lot hopping and showering at the gym, I learned that rock bottom has a basement, and I was living in it. Miss, you can't sleep here. The security guard tapped on my window at 3 a.m. 3rd time this week, I'm going to have to call the cops. I started the engine, trying to hide my laptop, where I'd been studying coding tutorials on borrowed Wi-Fi. Sorry, just leaving. That night, I ended up in a 24-hour diner, nursing the cheapest coffee on the menu while teaching myself Python. The waitress, Maria, kept my cup full without asking questions. Tech conference starting across the street tomorrow, she mentioned, sliding me a free plate of fries. Lots of fancy people talking about computers and stuff. Sounds like your thing. I glanced at my reflection in the window. Unwashed hair, dark circles, wrinkled clothes. Not exactly dressed for success. Maria disappeared into the back and returned with a garment bag. My daughter's interview suit. She got the job, doesn't need it anymore. It's yours if you want it. The suit was navy blue and slightly too big, but it was the nicest thing I'd owned in weeks. The next morning, I walked into that conference like I belonged there, swiping an unused name badge from the registration table. That's where I met Ariel. She caught me stuffing conference snacks into my purse during a break between sessions. Instead of calling security, she laughed. Smart. The chicken wraps are better than the sandwiches, though. She handed me her own wrapped lunch. I'm Ariel, and you're definitely not Sandra from Microsoft. She pointed at my stolen badge. I froze. I can explain. No need. I crashed my first 3 conferences too. But you might want to know that Sandra is actually a 60-year-old man who's speaking in 10 minutes. We both laughed, and something in my chest loosened for the first time in weeks. So, she said, tell me what you really do. I told her everything. The scholarship, the betrayal, my determination to make it on my own. She listened without interrupting, then pulled out her business card. I need a technical consultant for my startup. Someone hungry, someone with something to prove. Interested? It wasn't MIT, but it was a start. Within months, I had my own apartment and a growing client list. Ariel taught me the business side while I handled the technical work. We made a good team. Then came the billboard. I was driving to a client meeting when I saw it, Abel's smiling face plastered 40 feet high. Revolutionary AI Solutions by Abel Jackson, MIT graduate. Below that, funded by Thompson Ventures. I pulled over, hands shaking on the steering wheel. The degree that should have been mine. The investors who should have been funding my ideas. My phone buzzed. Ariel calling. Where are you? Client's waiting. I just saw the billboard. Silence. Then, the one with your brother? Yeah. Come to the office, now. I found Ariel in our tiny shared workspace, already pulling up information on her computer. Look at this. Thompson Ventures has a history of bad investments. They're desperate for a win. So they didn't do their due diligence on Abel. His company's built on sand. No real innovation, just buzzwords and promises. She turned to me. You could take them down. How? Build something better, something real. We've got enough clients now to start our own firm. Real solutions, not just consulting. I stared at Abel's face on her screen. They'll never take me seriously without a degree. Screw degrees. You've got something better, actual skill and a reason to succeed. She grinned. Want to make that billboard come down? I thought about Mom's smug smile, Dad's dismissal, Abel stealing my ideas. I want more than that. I want to be the one who brings it down. Then let's get to work. Ariel pulled out a notebook. First, we need a company name. R Key Solutions, I said immediately. R for Reagan, key because we'll unlock what others can't. I like it. Mysterious enough that no one needs to know who's really behind it. Looking at that billboard, I made a vow. I'd build something so big, so undeniable, that when the time came to tear down Abel's house of cards, he'd never see me coming. One more thing, Ariel said, closing her laptop. This revenge thing, it's going to take years. Are you sure you want to spend your life plotting payback? I thought about the acceptance letter, still folded in my wallet. They took years of my life. Seems fair to take some of theirs. Then let's make it count. I made a vow that day. I'd make sure that billboard came down someday, with him under it. 3 years passed, like a blur of code, coffee, and calculated moves. Our Key Solutions grew from a tiny consulting firm into a silent powerhouse. We specialized in saving failing tech companies for a price. Another acquisition offer? Ariel dropped a folder on my desk. That's the third this month. I barely looked up from my screens, where I was tracking Abel's company's stock performance. Not interested? It's from Felix Delgado. That got my attention. Felix ran one of the biggest tech firms on the West Coast. What does he want? To meet. Says he's intrigued by the ghost in the machine. Ariel raised an eyebrow. Apparently that's you. I'd kept my identity hidden, running R-Key through layers of shell companies and proxies. The media called me everything from the Phantom CEO to Ms. R. Only Ariel knew the truth. The meeting with Felix happened at a rooftop restaurant. He was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes and a sharper smile. So you're the mysterious Ms. R, he said, studying me over his wineglass. Younger than I imagined. Disappointed? Intrigued. You've built quite the reputation. The company that saves companies. He leaned forward. But I notice you follow a pattern. Every firm you rescue has competed with Abel Jackson's AI ventures. My hand tightened on my glass. You've done your homework? I make it my business to know my competition. Question is, why do you make it yours to know his? Maybe I just enjoy watching mediocre men fail. Felix laughed. There's a story there. Care to share? Not particularly. I stood up. If that's all... Wait. He pulled out his phone, showing me a news alert. Abel's company just announced a major AI breakthrough. Stocks soaring. I smiled. Give it a week. 7 days later, Abel's breakthrough was exposed as recycled code with a fancy interface. Their stock plummeted. Felix called immediately. How did you know? Let's just say I'm familiar with his work ethic. Partner with me, he said. Together we could... No thanks. I work alone. Except for Ariel, he noted. And now, maybe, Ruby Parker? My blood ran cold. Ruby was an investigative journalist I'd secretly hired to dig into Abel's investor fraud. I don't know what you're talking about. Come on, Reagan. Yes, I know your real name. The question is, what are you really after? I hung up. Back at the office, Ariel was waiting. Ruby found something. Abel's been faking user numbers, inflating growth metrics. She's ready to publish. Not yet. I pulled up Abel's company website. Look at their new board member. Is that your dad? Philip Jackson, New director of operations. I laughed bitterly. Guess Mom and Dad are all in on Abel's success. Reagan. Ariel's voice was serious. I need to ask you something. What happens when this is all over? When you've taken them down? Who says that's what I'm doing? She gestured at my screens. Dozens of tabs tracking Abel's company, their investors, their vulnerabilities. You're not just trying to win. You're trying to destroy. They destroyed me first. Did they? Look around. She waved at our sleek office, the skyline view. You've built something amazing here. Is revenge worth risking it all? My phone buzzed. A text from Felix. Watched your brother's latest investor pitch. He took credit for an AI model that looks suspiciously like one you designed last year. Another buzz. Ruby. Found proof of major investor fraud. When do we pull the trigger? Final buzz. A news alert. Abel Jackson announces expansion plans. Claims revolutionary new AI technology coming soon. I thought about the acceptance letter, still in my wallet after all these years. About Mum's dismissal, Dad's silence, Abel's theft. It's not about revenge anymore, I told Ariel. It's about justice. There's a difference? Revenge is what they did to me, taking something I earned because they could. Justice is exposing them for what they really are. Ariel sighed. And what about Felix? He knows too much. Felix wants what everyone wants, to be on the winning side. I pulled up our company's acquisition records. And soon he'll have to choose a side. When? I clicked on Abel's company stock performance, a downward trend disguised by creative accounting. Their quarterly report drops next month. That's when we move. And Ruby's article? Hold it. We wait until they're desperate, until they need a saviour. I smiled. Then Ms. R offers to buy their failing company. They won't know it's you. Not until it's too late. My phone buzzed again. Felix. Whatever you're planning, I want in. I typed back, stay tuned. Looking at Abel's company website, at his smiling face next to our father's, I felt that familiar fire in my chest. They were circling the drain, and I was the one plugging every hole they could find. Soon, they'd be begging for a lifeline, and I'd be there, ready to watch them drown. Memory is a funny thing. Watching Abel's company implode brought back a flood of them. Like the day he stole my first real breakthrough in high school. I was 16, coding late into the night, when I finally cracked it, an algorithm that could predict music preferences better than anything on the market. Abel found my notebook on the kitchen table. Mum, Dad, he'd shouted the next morning. I figured out how to make the perfect playlist app. I can still see Mum's proud smile, Dad's enthusiastic pat on his back. When I tried to speak up, Mum shushed me. Don't be jealous of your brother's creativity, dear. Now, 7 years later, I watched through my office window as Abel gave another disastrous press conference. Our AI platform is experiencing temporary setbacks, he stammered on the live stream. Investors in the audience shifted uncomfortably. Ariel brought in coffee, smirking. Temporary setbacks? Is that what we're calling complete system failure now? His entire neural network crashed during the demo, I said, rewinding the footage. Look at Dad's face in the background. Our father stood behind Abel, ashen-faced, probably remembering all the money they'd poured into this venture. Money that could have paid for my education 10 times over. My phone buzzed. Felix calling. Your brother's stock just dropped 30%. I saw. Your competing AI system launches next week. What a coincidence. He chuckled. You're evil, you know that? No, I corrected. I'm thorough. After hanging up, I pulled up the code for our new AI platform. The one I'd been perfecting for 3 years. The one that actually worked. Ariel leaned over my shoulder. Remember when he tried to steal this too? I did. 6 months ago, Abel had sent a corporate spy to try recruiting one of our developers. Instead, we fed them dummy code that would fall apart under testing. The resulting disaster cost Abel 3 major investors. Ms. R? My assistant's voice came through the intercom. Ruby Parker is here. Ruby walked in, manila envelope in hand. You're going to want to see this? Inside were photos. Abel meeting with suspicious investors in underground parking lots. Dad shredding documents late at night. Bank statements showing massive discrepancies. They're desperate, Ruby said. Word is, They're looking for a buyout. I spread the photos across my desk. How'd you get these? Your brother's ex-assistant got chatty after they fired her. She had quite the photo collection on her phone. Ruby smiled. Amazing what people will share when they're angry. My phone lit up with a news alert. Major investors pull out of Jackson AI Ventures following failed demonstration. Then another. Industry sources suggest Jackson AI seeking emergency buyout. And another. Anonymous tech giant rumored to be considering acquisition. Ariel raised an eyebrow. Anonymous tech giant? Felix is doing, I said. He's spreading the rumors for us. Why is he helping? Because he knows which way the wind is blowing. I pulled up our company's latest valuation. Billions, all earned legitimately. And he wants to be on the winning side. Ruby gathered her photos. When do you want me to publish? Not yet. Let them sweat. I looked at Abel's company logo, a stolen design like everything else he'd ever claimed. First, let's see them beg. My phone buzzed again. A text from Felix. Your father's trying to reach me, wants to discuss potential investment options. I thought about Dad, who always said Abel needed more help, more support, more chances, who watched silently as they stole my future. Tell him you'll pass his message to Ms. R, I texted back. Evil, Felix replied with a laughing emoji. Ariel picked up one of Ruby's photos, Abel looking desperate in a dark parking garage. You know what this reminds me of? That time in high school when he stole your science project idea. The solar panel design. Yeah, he failed spectacularly trying to present it because he didn't understand the basic principles. Just like now. History repeating itself, but this time with billions at stake. My phone lit up with an email notification. From Mum to my old account I kept just for monitoring them. Dear Reagan, I know we've had our differences, but Abel could really use his sister's support right now. Family should stick together. I laughed so hard Ruby and Ariel jumped. What's funny? Ariel asked. I showed them the email. 7 years of silence, and this is what brings her out? Abel failing? What are you going to reply? I deleted the email. Nothing. Let them wonder. Let them worry. I turned back to my screens, where Abel's company stock continued its death spiral. They're circling the drain, and I'm the one plugging every hole they could find. Soon, they'd be desperate enough to meet with the mysterious Ms. R. And then I'd show them exactly what their forgotten daughter had become. The email from Abel's company arrived exactly when I predicted it would, 3 days after their stock hit rock bottom. Dear Ms. R, Ariel read aloud, perched on my office couch. We're reaching out to discuss potential strategic partnerships. Strategic partnerships, I snorted. That's corporate speak for please save us. Should I set up the meeting? I swiveled in my chair, looking at the city skyline. Not yet. Wait for the second email, the desperate one. It came 4 hours later, this time from my father's personal address. Dear Ms. R, he wrote, our situation is increasingly urgent. We would be willing to discuss extremely favourable terms. Ariel whistled. Extremely favourable terms? They must be bleeding cash. Oh, they are. I pulled up their financial records, the real ones Ruby had uncovered. They've got maybe 2 weeks before complete collapse. My phone buzzed. Felix. Your family's getting sloppy. Your brother just tried to offer me shares in exchange for a cash injection. What did you say? Told him to talk to Ms. R. He nearly cried. I smiled. Set up the meeting, Ariel, 1 week from today. Here? No. I thought for a moment. The Metropolitan Hotel, penthouse conference room. Let's make them sweat in luxury. The week crawled by. Ruby's investigation was ready to go live at a moment's notice. Felix kept feeding me intel about Abel's increasingly desperate attempts to save his company. Mum sent 3 more emails to my old account, each more plaintive than the last. The morning of the meeting, Ariel found me staring at my closet. Wear the black Armani, she said. Nothing says I own you like a $10,000 suit. I slipped into the suit, applied careful makeup, pulled my hair into a severe bun. The woman in the mirror looked nothing like the girl who'd slept in her car all those years ago. The lawyers are ready, Ariel reported. Ruby's article is queued up. Felix is standing by to swoop in on any loose assets. And the conference room, Temperature set to 68 degrees, just cold enough to be uncomfortable. Water glasses will be empty. Making them ask for water is a nice power play. I checked my phone. A text from Felix. Break their hearts, darling. The Metropolitan's penthouse suite offered a stunning view of the city. I positioned my chair facing away from the door, toward the windows. A power move as old as business itself. They're here, Ariel announced through my earpiece. Make them wait 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes must have felt like hours to them. When I finally gave the signal, I heard them file in. The shuffle of expensive shoes, the scrape of chairs. Thank you for meeting with us, Ms. R. My father's voice, older than I remembered. We appreciate your time. We've prepared a complete overview of our company's position, Abel added, trying to sound confident. And we're sure we can come to a mutually beneficial arrangement, Mom chimed in, her social climber voice in full effect. I kept staring out the window. Your company is worth exactly $27 million, not the $200 million you've been claiming. Silence. That's absurd, Abel sputtered. Our AI technology alone is defunct. Your neural network has fundamental flaws in its architecture. Your user numbers are inflated. Your primary investors are pulling out. I swiveled slowly. And you have exactly 13 days before your loans default. More silence. I watched their faces. Abel's panic, Dad's resignation, Mum's growing horror. How do you know all this? Mum demanded. I smiled. I make it my business to know things, Mrs. Jackson. Dad leaned forward. Whatever you've heard, we can explain. The fraudulent investor reports, the embezzled development funds, the stolen code. I laid out Ruby's photos one by one. Please explain. Abel's face went white. Those are confidential. Nothing is confidential from me. I stood up. Here's my offer. I'll buy your company for $27 million. You sign over all assets, patents, and intellectual property. You admit to the fraud publicly, or what? Mum's voice shook. Or I walk away and let Ruby Parker's exposé run tomorrow morning. Your choice. You're blackmailing us, Abel said. No. I pressed a button, and my company's real financial records projected on the wall. Billions in legitimate assets. I'm offering you a chance you don't deserve. My phone buzzed. Felix. Are you actually going to do it? Are you going to let them drown? I looked at my family, the people who had stolen my dreams and were now begging for salvation. They still hadn't recognized me, still hadn't seen what their forgotten daughter had become. You have 1 hour to decide, I said, turning back to the window. Choose wisely. Behind me, I heard Mom start to cry. 58 minutes into their hour, Abel broke the silence. We'll take the deal. No, I said, still facing the window. First, I want to hear you admit what you did. What we did? Mum's voice rose. We don't even know you. I turned slowly, savouring the moment. Are you sure about that? They stared at me, confusion slowly morphing into recognition. Dad's face went ash grey. Mum's hand flew to her throat. Abel's mouth opened and closed like a dying fish. Reagan? He whispered. I smiled. Hello, brother dear. Mum. Dad. Been a while. Mum stood up so fast her chair toppled. This is impossible. You disappeared. I didn't disappear. I succeeded. Despite you. Despite everything you did to stop me. We were trying to help you, Dad started. Help me? I slammed my hand on the table. You stole my scholarship. You gave it to him. I pointed at Abel. And look what he did with it. Built a company on lies and fraud, just like everything else he's ever done. That's not fair, Abel protested. Not fair? I laughed. Let's talk about fair. Let's talk about how you stole my code in high school. My ideas, my future. And now? I gestured at the damning photos. You're still stealing. Still failing. Reagan, honey. Mum tried her soothing voice. We're family. Family? I pressed another button. A recording played. Abel's voice from 7 years ago. Come on, sis. You know I need this. My ideas could really take off. I stopped the playback. Family doesn't steal from family. What do you want? Dad asked quietly. I told you. Public admission of fraud. Full transfer of assets and... I paused. An apology. Not in private. In front of the press. You can't be serious, Mum gasped. Deadly serious. You have... I checked my watch. 90 seconds to decide. Abel jumped up. This is blackmail. No, dear brother. This is karma. I pulled out my phone. Ruby's article goes live in 60 seconds, unless... We'll lose everything, Dad said. Like, I lost everything? I showed them my old acceptance letter, worn and creased. Remember this? Remember telling me I'd figure something else out? Mum started crying. We thought we were doing what was best. Best for who? I demanded. For Abel. Look how well that turned out. For the family name? It's about to be dragged through the mud, anyway. 30 seconds, Ariel announced from the doorway. Abel slumped in his chair. What's the point of all this? You've already won. Won. I leaned forward. I didn't want to win. I wanted you to understand what it feels like to have everything you worked for taken away. Please, Dad whispered. We're begging you. Like I begged you? I stood up. 10 seconds. Mum grabbed my arm. Reagan, wait. 5 seconds. I'm sorry, Abel shouted. Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry I took your scholarship. I'm sorry I stole your ideas. I'm sorry I was a terrible brother. I held up my phone, finger hovering over the screen. Dad? He nodded slowly. I'm sorry we failed you. Mum? She just sobbed. Not good enough. I started to press the button. I'm sorry, she burst out. I'm sorry I didn't believe in you. I'm sorry I thought you were worth less than your brother. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I looked at Ariel, who nodded. The words we'd waited 7 years to hear. The press conference is tomorrow at 9, I said. You'll admit everything. The fraud, the stolen scholarship, all of it. Sign these papers now. They signed with trembling hands. Reagan, Abel said as they stood to leave, for what it's worth, you would have done amazing things at MIT. I did amazing things anyway, I smiled coldly. No thanks to any of you. After they left, Ariel brought in champagne. Feel better? I watched my family shuffle into their waiting car, shoulders slumped in defeat. Ask me tomorrow. My phone buzzed. Felix. Just saw the signed papers. You actually did it. Drinks later? Then Ruby. Press conference set up. This story's going to be explosive. Finally, a news alert. Breaking. Jackson AI ventures to make major announcement tomorrow. Sources suggest leadership shakeup. I touched the acceptance letter in my pocket. 7 years of waiting, planning, building an empire just to bring them to their knees. You know what's funny? I told Ariel. They still don't get it. They think this is about revenge. Isn't it? No. I looked out at my city, my empire, built from nothing but rage and determination. It's about justice, and tomorrow, everyone will know the difference. The press conference room buzzed with anticipation. I watched from a private viewing area as my family took their seats at the table, looking like prisoners facing execution. Ready for this? Ariel handed me a coffee. I've been ready for 7 years. Felix slipped into the room. Quite the turnout. Every major tech publication is here. Of course they are. I smiled. The mysterious Ms. R finally revealing herself. The downfall of a major AI company. It's catnip for journalists. Ruby appeared on stage, taking her place at the podium. Good morning. Today, the CEO of Jackson AI Ventures will make an announcement, followed by a statement from R Key Solutions founder, known until now only as Ms. R. Abel approached the microphone, sweat visible on his forehead. Good morning. We have a confession to make. He looked toward our private booth. I nodded slowly. Our company's AI technology is fundamentally flawed. We've been falsifying data, misleading investors, and, he swallowed hard, stealing intellectual property. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Furthermore, Abel continued, his voice shaking. This pattern of theft began years ago, 7 years ago to be exact, when I accepted a scholarship that wasn't rightfully mine. Mum sobbed quietly in her chair. Dad stared at his hands. That scholarship belonged to my sister Reagan. She earned it, she deserved it, and our family... Abel's voice cracked. Our family stole it from her. The room went dead silent. And now, Ruby took the podium again, A statement from R-Key Solutions founder and CEO. I straightened my jacket and walked onto the stage. The camera flashes were blinding. "My name is Reagan," I said into the microphone. "And yes, I am Ms. R." The room exploded again. I waited for the noise to die down. 7 years ago, my family taught me a valuable lesson about power. They taught me that those who have it can take whatever they want from those who don't. I looked directly at them. "So I built my own power." A reporter shot up. "Did you orchestrate this entire situation?" "No," I smiled. "They orchestrated their own downfall through fraud and mismanagement. I simply refused to save them from the consequences of their actions." Will R-Key Solutions acquire Jackson AI? We'll be purchasing their assets at market value, approximately $27 million, a far cry from their claimed value of $200 million. Another reporter. "What happens to your family now?" I looked at them. Mum's tears, Dad's shame, Abel's defeat. They get exactly what they gave me 7 years ago. Nothing. The questions came rapid fire after that. I answered each one precisely, watching my family shrink smaller and smaller in their chairs. Finally, Ruby ended the conference. As security escorted the reporters out, Abel approached me. "Reagan, please, we can still fix this." "Fix what? Your company's dead. Your reputation's ruined. Your investors are already filing lawsuits." I adjusted my cufflinks. "Sounds pretty fixed to me." "I meant us. Our family. Our family died the night you took my future." I turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Abel? That app idea you pitched last month? The one about predictive music preferences? I designed that when I was 16. You should have studied the code better before stealing it." Mum tried to reach for me, but security blocked her path. "Reagan, baby, please." "Goodbye, Mum, Dad." I nodded to each of them. "Try community college. I hear it's always an option." Back in my office, Ariel poured champagne, while Felix pulled up the news coverage. "Tech world shocked by family betrayal," he read. "Rising star Reagan reveals 7-year revenge plot." "It wasn't revenge," I corrected, taking a glass. "It was justice." "Same thing, isn't it?" Felix asked. "Revenge is what they did, taking something because they could. Justice is exposing the truth." My phone buzzed with messages. Old classmates. "We always knew you were the smart one." Former teachers. "So proud of what you've become." Tech CEOs. "Let's discuss partnerships." And then one from Dad. "I understand now. What we did. What we took from you. I'm sorry we couldn't see your worth." I deleted it without responding. Ariel raised her glass. "To justice served cold." "To karma," Felix added. "To the future," I said, looking out at my city. The one I built myself. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of victory. Somewhere across town, my family was facing the ruins of their life, just like I had 7 years ago in a car with nothing but rage and determination. And just like that, I whispered, they were left with exactly what they gave me. Nothing. The champagne tasted like triumph. The morning after the press conference, I found Ruby waiting in my office. "Quite a story," she said, dropping a stack of newspapers on my desk. "But I don't think it's finished." "What do you mean?" "I mean, what happens next? After the revenge, after the justice, what's the real ending?" I stared at the headlines. "Tech Queen's perfect revenge. Family betrayal leads to empire. The making of Ms. R." My phone buzzed. "Felix. Dinner tonight? We should celebrate properly." Before I could respond, Ariel burst in. "You need to see this." She pulled up a video on her tablet. A young woman, maybe 20, standing outside our building with a sandwich delivery bag. "I've been trying to get an interview with Ms. R for weeks," the woman was saying to a reporter. "I have this app idea, see? But no one will listen because I'm just a delivery girl." The camera zoomed in on her phone, showing complex code that looked surprisingly elegant. "That's actually good," Ariel said. "Really good," I agreed, studying the algorithm. My office door opened again. "Ms. R." My assistant looked nervous. "Your father's in the lobby. He won't leave." I sighed. "Send him up." Dad looked older than yesterday, more broken. He placed something on my desk, my old journal from high school. Found this while packing up the house, he said quietly. Your mother and I, we're selling everything to pay back the investors. I opened the journal. Pages of code, dreams, ideas. Some Abel had stolen, others I'd made real on my own. I never read it before, Dad continued. Never really looked at what you were capable of. We were so focused on Abel, on what we thought success should look like. Why are you here? To give you this. He pulled out an envelope. It's my resignation from your company's board. You bought us out fair and square, but... He hesitated. There's something else you should know. What? That girl downstairs with the sandwich delivery, she reminds me of you. Same fire in her eyes. I looked at the video still playing on Ariel's tablet. The girl was still talking, passionate about her code. She's right, you know, Dad said softly. No one's listening to her, just like no one listened to you. He turned to leave, then stopped. We were wrong, Reagan. Not just about the scholarship, about everything. I hope someday you can... He shook his head. Never mind, goodbye. After he left, Ruby picked up my old journal. You know what would make a better ending than revenge? What? Breaking the cycle. My phone buzzed again. Felix. About dinner, and maybe more. You've got to admit, we'd make quite the power couple. I looked at his message, then at the video of the delivery girl, and my old journal full of dreams that no one believed in. Ariel, I said, get that girl up here. She arrived clutching her delivery bag, eyes wide at the office. I'm Sarah. I'm so sorry about the interview. Show me your code, I interrupted. She pulled out her phone, hands shaking. It's a predictive algorithm for emergency response times. See, it factors in traffic patterns, weather, historical data. The code was elegant, innovative, everything Abel's never was. Why delivery jobs? I asked. Couldn't afford college. Parents said tech wasn't for girls. She laughed nervously. But I keep learning anyway. Online courses, coding in my car between deliveries. I caught Ariel's knowing smile, Ruby's raised eyebrow. Sarah, I said, how would you like a scholarship? Her phone slipped from her hands. What? Full ride, any tech school you want, plus a development contract with R-Key for your algorithm. But why? I picked up my old journal. Because 7 years ago, someone stole my chance. I won't let that happen to anyone else. Tears filled her eyes. Really? Really. I handed her a card. Come back tomorrow. We'll get started. After she left, practically floating, Ruby grinned. Now that's an ending. My phone buzzed one last time. Felix still pushing for dinner. I typed back, not interested in power couples, too busy building something better. I looked at my old acceptance letter, then at Sarah's algorithm still glowing on her forgotten phone. You know what, Ruby? Write whatever ending you want. Just make sure they know. This was never about destroying my family. What was it about? I smiled, thinking of Sarah's shaking hands and brilliant code, of all the other dreamers out there, waiting for someone to listen. It was about making sure no one else has to build their future from nothing but rage and stolen chances. I picked up my journal, filled with the dreams of a 16-year-old girl who refused to disappear. Sometimes, I said, the best revenge is making sure you're not the last one to succeed.
I was folding laundry when my parents issued the ultimatum that would destroy our family. Funny how life-shattering moments can arrive so quietly, wrapped in the mundane task of matching socks. My name is Tessa, and at 26, I never expected to be paying rent to sleep in my childhood bedroom. But there I was, sitting cross-legged on my narrow twin bed, while my mother Quinn stood in the doorway with that particular smile she reserves for uncomfortable conversations. We need to discuss the new living arrangements, she said, gesturing for my father Wilson to join her. He shuffled in behind her, avoiding my eyes. Now that Christian and Angela are married, things need to change. I set down the half-folded T-shirt in my lap. What kind of changes? Well, they'll be taking the master bedroom, of course. Your father and I are moving to the guest suite downstairs, and... She paused, her smile tightening. We think it's time you started contributing properly. Contributing? I echoed, though I already knew where this was heading. My stomach dropped as I thought about the utility bills I'd been quietly paying for the past 3 years, the groceries I bought weekly, the home repairs I'd funded without complaint. Rent, my father finally spoke, still not meeting my gaze. $800 a month, starting next month. The laundry basket tipped as I stood up, spilling clean clothes onto the floor. $800? For this? I gestured around my childhood bedroom, barely big enough for a desk and dresser. The walls still wore the pale yellow paint I'd chosen at 13. It's more than fair, my mother insisted. Angela's family thinks we're being too generous, actually. Most young people your age have their own places by now. Most young people weren't told their whole lives that this house would always be their home, I countered, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. And most young people's parents don't give their master bedroom to their golden child while charging their daughter rent. A sharp knock interrupted us. Christian appeared in the doorway, his new wife Angela hovering behind him with that sweet, vacant smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Everything okay in here?" he asked, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what was happening. "Mom, did you tell her about the renovation plans too?" "Renovation plans?" I felt my chest tighten. "Oh yes," Angela chimed in, stepping forward. "We're thinking of expanding the master suite. Nothing major, just taking down a wall or two. We'll need everyone to chip in, of course. Family project and all that." I looked at each of their faces, my mother's determined smile, my father's averted gaze, Christian's casual entitlement, Angela's calculated innocence. Something inside me shifted like a gear finally clicking into place. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice coming out cooler than I expected. "You want me to pay rent for my childhood bedroom, which is basically a closet, while also contributing to renovations that will make my brother's space bigger?" "Don't be dramatic, Tessa," Christian sighed. "It's about family. You've always been so difficult about these things." "Difficult?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I've been paying the utilities since I got my first real job. I buy groceries every week. I paid for the new water heater last winter when it broke. Where were your contributions, Christian?" The room went silent. My mother's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "That was your choice, dear. Nobody asked you to do those things." "No," I agreed quietly. "Nobody ever asks me. They just expect." I turned away from them, facing the window I'd looked out of for 26 years. The maple tree outside had grown so tall, its branches now scraped against the glass. I'd grown too, though somehow they hadn't noticed. "I'll have my answer about the rent by tomorrow," I said finally, not turning around. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to finish my laundry." They filed out one by one, my mother pausing at the door. "We're only trying to be fair, Tessa. Everyone needs to do their part." After they left, I sat back down on my bed, surrounded by scattered laundry and 2 decades of memories. My hand brushed against something under my pillow, an old photograph of my grandmother Mary, taken at her sister's funeral years ago. I barely remembered that day, except for the strange paperwork she'd had me sign, insisting it was just in case. Looking at her shrewd eyes in the photograph, I wondered if she'd somehow seen this coming. If she'd known that one day I'd need more than memories to protect myself from my own family. I picked up my phone and texted my friend Sebastian. "Need legal advice. How soon can you meet?" Sebastian's coffee had gone cold by the time I finished laying out every bill, receipt, and bank statement from the past 3 years. The cafe buzzed around us, but we sat in our own bubble of spreadsheets and mounting frustration. "So let me get this straight," he said, tapping his pen against the table. "You've basically been their unofficial property manager since 2020? I nodded, pushing another stack of papers toward him. "Water heater, property taxes, utilities, groceries. I even paid for the roof repair last spring when that storm hit." "And Christian contributed nothing? Unless you count his winning personality." I tried to smile, but couldn't quite manage it. Mom always said he was focusing on his career. Meanwhile, I was just being helpful because I lived there. Sebastian leaned back, his paralegal instincts clearly kicking in. "You know this isn't normal, right? Parents don't usually make one kid pay for everything while giving another the master bedroom. Try telling them that. I pulled out my phone, showing him the latest text from my mother. Don't forget, rent starts next month. Angela's father knows a contractor for the renovation estimates. Jesus, Sebastian muttered. They're really going all in on this, aren't they? The waitress stopped by to refill our coffees, and I waited until she left before continuing. You want to know the worst part? Last night, Angela called me the basement tenant at dinner, like it was some kind of joke. What did your parents say? They laughed. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, trying to stop them from shaking. Even Dad, who hasn't said more than 2 words about this whole situation. Sebastian started organizing the papers into neat piles, his face thoughtful. You know, this reminds me of something. Didn't you mention signing some papers for your grandmother years ago, at her sister's funeral? The memory hit me like a splash of cold water. Yes, but I barely remember it. I was 19, upset about Aunt Prudence dying. Grandma Mary pulled me aside after the service, had me sign something, said it was insurance for the future. Do you still have those papers? I shook my head. They're probably in her old files somewhere. Mom boxed everything up after she died. Find them, Sebastian said firmly. Your grandmother was sharp as a tack until the end. She wouldn't have made you sign something without a reason. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Christian. Angela's picking out paint colors for the renovation. Mom says you need to confirm the rent arrangement today. They're not even pretending anymore, I said, showing Sebastian the message. It's like they think they can just erase me from my own home. Then don't let them. Sebastian's voice took on an edge I rarely heard. Stop paying their bills, start documenting everything, and find those papers from your grandmother. But they're family, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. Family doesn't treat family like an ATM, he countered. Look, I've seen this before. People take advantage because they think you'll never stand up to them. Prove them wrong. I stared at the piles of receipts, years of silent contributions spread out before me. Where do I even start? The attic, Sebastian said, already pulling out his laptop. That's where people usually store important documents. I'll draft a formal request for any paperwork related to your grandmother's estate. In the meantime, don't agree to anything. Don't sign anything. And most importantly, don't let them guilt you into backing down. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail. What if I find something? I asked. What if Grandma Mary really did leave me some kind of insurance? Sebastian's eyes met mine. Then you use it, because something tells me that's exactly what she wanted you to do. I gathered the papers, my mind already racing to the dusty boxes in our attic. Before I could leave, Sebastian grabbed my arm. Tessa, wait. Remember what your grandmother used to say about your Aunt Prudence? How the family pushed her out too? I nodded slowly. She said Prudence wasn't the black sheep. She was just the first one to stop playing their game. Maybe it's time you stopped playing too. Walking home, I thought about Aunt Prudence, about Grandma Mary, about all the quiet women in my family who'd eventually had enough. The house loomed ahead of me, and through the window I could see Angela directing movers who were already rearranging the master bedroom. My phone buzzed one final time. Angela, don't forget, basement tenant rent is due on the 1st. I looked up at the attic window and made my decision. It was time to find those papers. The attic was a maze of cardboard boxes and forgotten furniture, thick with dust and decades of family secrets. I waited until everyone was asleep before climbing up, armed with a flashlight and determination. My grandmother's belongings had to be here somewhere. 3 hours of searching yielded nothing but sneezing fits and cobwebs until I spotted it. A metal filing cabinet tucked behind Dad's old rowing machine. The drawer stuck at first, protesting with a screech that made me freeze, listening for movement downstairs. Inside, organized with my grandmother's characteristic precision, were dozens of manila folders, birth certificates, tax returns. And there, labeled simply house, was what I'd been looking for. My hands trembled as I pulled out the deed. The first page looked standard enough, but as I flipped through, my heart stopped. There it was, in black and white, my name, listed as holding 1/4 ownership of the property. My phone was in my hand before I could think. Despite the late hour, Sebastian answered on the second ring. "I found it," I whispered, trying to keep my voice down. "Sebastian, I own part of the house. Grandma Mary left me a quarter share when she died. Send me pictures, every page." He sounded wide awake now. "And Tessa, don't tell your family yet." I heard rustling as he got out of bed, probably heading for his laptop. While I carefully photographed each document, my mind raced. Why hadn't anyone told me about this? How long had they known? "Got them," Sebastian said after a moment. Tessa, this is legally binding. Your grandmother knew exactly what she was doing. The clause is airtight." "What does it mean?" "It means you're not a tenant. You're an owner. They can't charge you rent, and—" He paused, and I could hear him typing. "You have the right to force a sale if the other owners won't buy you out." The flashlight beam shook as the implications hit me. I could make them sell the house? Yes, and given current market value, your quarter share would be worth, more typing, around $200,000. I sat down hard on an old trunk, disturbing a cloud of dust. Below me I heard footsteps, someone getting a midnight snack, probably Christian. He always raided the fridge after midnight. "There's more," Sebastian continued. "There's a letter here, attached to the deed. It's addressed to you." I shuffled through the papers until I found it, an envelope with my name in my grandmother's elegant handwriting. Inside was a single page. "Dearest Tessa, if you're reading this, then they finally pushed too far. Your Aunt Prudence faced the same battle, family loyalty used as a chain, not a bond. I couldn't help her then, but I can help you now. This house is your heritage as much as theirs. Use this truth wisely, but use it if you must. Sometimes love means standing your ground. All my faith, Grandma Mary." She knew, I whispered into the phone. She knew they'd do this. "What are you going to do?" Sebastian asked quietly. Before I could answer, the attic door creaked open. Light spilled up the stairs, and Angela's voice drifted up. "Tessa, what are you doing up there?" I shoved the papers into my jacket. "Just looking for some old photos," I called down, trying to sound casual. "Can't sleep?" "Well, keep it down. Some of us have to be up early to meet the contractor." Her footsteps retreated, but her message was clear. This wasn't my space anymore either. "Sebastian?" I whispered once I was sure she was gone. "How quickly can we file the paperwork?" "I can have it ready by morning. But Tessa, once we do this, there's no going back. They'll know you know." I thought about my tiny bedroom, about Angela's smirking comments, about years of being the family ATM, about my grandmother writing this letter years ago, giving me an escape route she knew I'd eventually need. "Good," I said, surprised by the steel in my voice. "Let them know. Come to my office first thing. We'll need to move fast before they can try to counter it." I crept back downstairs, the documents secure against my chest. As I passed the master bedroom, I heard Christian and Angela laughing, probably planning their renovation. Down the hall, my parents' door was closed. They'd never even noticed I was awake. Back in my room, I pulled out the letter again. My grandmother's words seemed to glow in the darkness. Sometimes love means standing your ground. I texted Sebastian one last time. "See you at 8 a.m. Time to show them what the basement tenant can do." Then I lay back on my childhood bed, listening to the house creak and settle, knowing it would never sound quite the same again. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, I'd stop being the quiet one who paid the bills and kept the peace. Tomorrow, I'd become my grandmother's granddaughter. The timing was perfect. Angela had dragged my entire family to her parents' lake house for the weekend, insisting they all needed to discuss renovation plans. I'd claimed a work emergency to stay behind, They didn't even question it. The reliable daughter, always working, always making excuses, if they only knew. "Everything's filed," Sebastian said, watching me pack the last box into my car. "The notice will be delivered Monday morning. Are you sure about this?" I closed the trunk, trying not to think about how 26 years of life fit into just 6 cardboard boxes. "They're at the lake house until tomorrow night. By the time they get back, I'll be gone." "And the note?" I patted my jacket pocket, feeling the envelope inside. Short and sweet, just like we discussed. Sebastian helped me do one final sweep of my room. It looked strange empty, smaller somehow, with the pale rectangles on the walls where my photos used to hang. I'd left the furniture. It wasn't worth taking. "What about your grandmother's things?" he asked as I lingered in the doorway. "Already moved them to a storage unit," I said. "Along with Aunt Prudence's old letters. I'm not leaving anything they can use against me." Downstairs, I took my time walking through each room. The kitchen where I'd cooked countless family meals, the living room where I'd watched Christian open Christmas presents while I got practical gifts like grocery store gift cards, the dining room where just days ago they'd demanded rent from their own daughter. "You don't have to leave the key," Sebastian reminded me. "Legally, you're still an owner." I placed it on the counter anyway, next to my note. I want them to know this was my choice. The note was simple. I found my own sense of fairness. TPS, check your mail Monday. We drove to my new apartment across town, a small but sunny one-bedroom I'd secretly rented last week. Sebastian helped me carry the boxes up, neither of us talking much. The reality of what I'd just done was starting to sink in. "What time is it?" I asked, setting down the last box. He checked his phone. "Just past 3. They won't be back until tomorrow evening." Good. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Time for phase 2. One by one, I canceled every automatic payment I'd been making for the house. Utilities, insurance, the cleaning service I'd hired for Mom, the lawn care subscription, the Netflix account they all used, everything. "They're going to lose their minds," Sebastian said, watching me work. "They're going to have to learn to pay their own bills," I corrected, "just like real adults." My phone buzzed, a text from Angela. "The contractor's estimate came in. Your share of the renovation will be $15,000. We'll need it by next week to start work." I showed Sebastian the message, and we both laughed. "Should I tell her?" I asked. "Let the legal notice do the talking." I spent that evening setting up my new place, trying not to jump every time my phone buzzed. More texts from Angela about the renovation, one from Mom about the rent check. Even Dad sent his rare message, "Don't forget to mow before we get back." None of them had any idea what was coming. Around midnight, Sebastian called. "It's done. The notice has been posted to their door and copies are being mailed to each of them. Official legal notification of your ownership stake and intent to force a sale if they don't buy you out at market value." I was sitting on my new balcony, watching the city lights. What happens next? They have 30 days to either buy your share or agree to sell, given the property value and their financial situation. He paused. "They'll probably have to sell." Good. "Are you okay?" I thought about my grandmother's letter, safely stored in my new desk, about years of being taken for granted, about Angela's smirking emoji and my brother's entitled demands. "I'm better than okay," I said. "I'm free." The next evening, right around the time I knew they'd be getting home, my phone exploded. Text messages, voicemails, emails. I turned it off without reading any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop and wrote an email to my grandmother's old address. Defunct now, but it felt right. "Dear Grandma Mary, I finally read your letter. I finally understood what you were trying to tell me all those years ago. Thank you for giving me the key to my own freedom. They thought they were evicting me from my childhood bedroom, but in the end, I'm evicting them from my life. Love, Tessa." I hit send, knowing it would bounce back. It didn't matter. Somewhere I was sure she knew. Tomorrow would bring chaos. But tonight, in my quiet new apartment. I was just a girl who'd finally learned to stand her ground. When I finally turned my phone back on 3 days later, I had 147 text messages, 58 missed calls, and one particularly interesting email from Angela. "We thought you'd never sink this low." I forwarded it to Sebastian with a single word. "Really?" He called immediately. "Have you read any of the other messages?" "Not yet. I've been enjoying the silence." I was sitting at my new kitchen counter, drinking coffee I'd made myself, not having to share with anyone. "How bad is it?" "Your mother's threatening to disown you. Your father's begging you to be reasonable. Christian." He paused. "Well, Christian's showing his true colors. Let me guess. He's furious that his renovation plans are ruined?" "Among other things. But here's what's interesting. Angela knew about your ownership stake." The coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "What?" She slipped up in one of her rage texts. Said something about how they never thought you'd actually use the clause against family. They knew, Tessa. They knew, and they still tried to charge you rent. The betrayal hit harder than I expected. All this time, they'd known about my grandmother's gift and chosen to hide it from me, to use me. My phone buzzed again, Christian calling for the 100th time. This time, I answered. "How dare you?" he started before I could speak. "Do you have any idea what you've done to Mom? To Angela? We had plans?" Funny, I had plans too, like not being charged rent for a house I partly own. That was different. You were supposed to be the good sister, the one who helps out. Not some vindictive. "Careful," I cut in, my voice ice cold. "Remember who holds the cards now. Angela's family won't help us buy you out," he said, his tone shifting to something almost pleading. "And we can't afford it ourselves. You're going to make us sell our home." "No, Christian, I'm going to make you sell my home too, the one you tried to take from me." A new voice cut in, Angela, apparently on speakerphone. "We knew you were jealous of us getting the master bedroom, but this is pathetic." I laughed, surprising myself with how genuine it sounded. "Jealous? I'm not jealous, Angela. I'm just finally getting what's mine. By the way, how's that renovation estimate looking now?" They both started talking at once, but I hung up. Seconds later, a text from my mother arrived. "Please come home. We can discuss this as a family." I showed it to Sebastian, who'd been listening quietly. Should I respond? "Only through the lawyers now," he advised. "But heads up, your father's here to see you." "What?" I looked out my window and sure enough, Dad's car was pulling into the visitor's parking spot. "How did he find my address?" "He came to my office first. Seemed different. Said he needs to talk to you alone." I watched my father get out of his car, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "What do you think?" "I think you should hear him out, but record everything, just in case." Dad knocked softly, nothing like Mom's commanding rap or Christian's entitled pounding. When I opened the door, he looked lost, clutching a familiar-looking folder. "You knew," I said, before he could speak. "You knew about Grandma Mary's deed." He nodded, sinking into my offered chair. "I helped her set it up. She made me promise not to tell anyone unless you found out on your own." "Why?" "Because she knew what would happen. She saw how they treated you, how your mother favored Christian, how Angela was changing everything." He opened the folder, another copy of the deed. "Mary said you needed an escape route. I never thought you'd need to use it." "But you let them charge me rent," I said quietly. "You watched them take advantage for years." "I was a coward," he admitted, his voice breaking. "I thought if I just kept the peace. But I was wrong. I failed you, Tessa." He pulled out another envelope, older, yellowed. "Mary left this for when you finally stood up for yourself. I've been carrying it for years." Inside was a bank statement, a separate account, in my name, where my grandmother had been quietly depositing money. Years of birthday checks I thought I'd lost, investment returns, small inheritances, all saved for me. There's enough there for a down payment on your own house, Dad said softly. She wanted you to have a real home, not just a room they could take away. I stared at the statement, then at my father. Why are you showing me this now? Because you're stronger than I ever was, he said, standing to leave. And because Mary was right, sometimes love means standing your ground. At the door, he turned back. They're meeting with lawyers tomorrow. Don't back down, Tessa. Not this time. I won't, I promised, both to him and to my grandmother's memory. Not ever again. The mediation room felt too small for all the tension it contained. My mother sat rigid in her chair, while Christian paced behind her. Angela kept checking her phone, probably hoping her family would swoop in with a financial rescue. Dad sat apart from them, staring at his hands. Sebastian touched my arm as the mediator entered. Remember what we discussed. Let me do the talking. Can we please begin? My mother announced before anyone could speak. We're here to talk sense into my daughter. The mediator, a sharp-eyed woman named Rita, raised an eyebrow. Actually, we're here to discuss the legal partition of property ownership. Ms. Tessa has the right to— She has the right to destroy her family? Christian interrupted. To throw us out of our home? Your home? Sebastian opened his briefcase. Let's talk about that. I have here 3 years of utility payments, property tax contributions, and maintenance costs, all paid by Tessa, while you were living there rent-free. Angela scoffed. She chose to pay those. Nobody forced her. Actually, Sebastian continued, laying out documents, I have texts showing you and your husband demanding these payments, quite aggressively, in fact. The mediator reviewed the papers. And then you attempted to charge her rent for a property she partially owns? We didn't know, my mother protested. That's not true, Dad spoke up suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at him. We knew. Mary told us when she did it. We thought Tessa would never find out. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face went white. Wilson, what are you saying? I'm saying we took advantage of our daughter. We knew she owned part of the house, and we still tried to make her pay rent. We still gave her bedroom to Christian. We still treated her like— He looked at me for the first time. Like she didn't matter. This is ridiculous, Christian snapped. Angela's pregnant. We need the space. You can't just— Pregnant. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Angela at least had the grace to look embarrassed. We were going to announce it at family dinner, she mumbled. Before all this. So that's why you needed the renovation done quickly, Sebastian noted, planning to turn Tessa's room into a nursery? My mother seized on this new angle. You see, you can't force a sale now. Not with a baby coming. What kind of aunt would do that to her own niece or nephew? The kind who's tired of being used, I said, finally breaking my silence. The kind who realizes that having a baby doesn't entitle you to someone else's property. Rita cleared her throat. The law is clear here. Tessa owns 1/4 of the property. She has the right to force a sale unless the other owners can buy her out at market value. Which is? Angela asked. Given current market rates and the property assessment. Rita consulted her papers. Her share would be approximately $200,000. Christian laughed bitterly. We don't have that kind of money. You know we don't. Then the house goes on the market, Sebastian stated firmly. You have 30 days to either buy her out or agree to a sale. Tessa, my mother tried one last time, her voice softening to the tone she used when she wanted something. We're family. We can work this out. Whatever you're feeling— I'm not feeling anything anymore, I interrupted. That's the point. You've taken everything I had to give, my money, my space, my trust. There's nothing left. But the baby? We'll have 2 sets of grandparents with plenty of resources, Sebastian cut in. This meeting is about property rights, not emotional manipulation. Rita nodded. I'll draft the paperwork. You have 30 days to make arrangements. After that, the property goes to public sale. As everyone stood to leave, Angela grabbed my arm. "We thought you'd never do this," she hissed. "We thought you knew your place." I looked at her hand until she dropped it. That's the problem. I finally do know my place, and it's not in that house anymore. Outside, Dad caught up with me in the parking lot. "Your grandmother would be proud," he said quietly. "Are you?" I asked. He smiled sadly. "I'm proud and ashamed. Proud of you for standing up. Ashamed it took this long." My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "When you regret this, don't come crying to us." I showed it to Sebastian, who'd been waiting by his car. "Think I'll regret it?" "Only if you let them make you doubt yourself," he said. "Remember what your grandmother wrote. Sometimes love means standing your ground. Even if it means losing your family?" He looked at me seriously. "Maybe especially then." I drove home to my quiet apartment, thinking about family and boundaries and what it means to truly own something like not just a house, but yourself. In 30 days, everything would change. But maybe it already had. 28 days after the mediation, I stood in front of my childhood home, watching the realtor hammer the "for sale" sign into the lawn. My mother yanked the curtains closed as I walked up the driveway one last time. The door opened before I could knock. Christian blocked the entrance, arms crossed. "Come to gloat?" Actually, I came to get the rest of Grandma Mary's things. I held up the court order. As per the agreement. He stepped aside reluctantly, and I followed him into the house. The changes were immediate and jarring, moving boxes everywhere, Angela's designer furniture already wrapped in plastic. The master bedroom door stood open, revealing bare walls where their renovation plans would never materialize. "Angela's parents won't help?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "They said we were idiots for not buying the house outright when we had the chance." He kicked an empty box. "Happy now?" Before I could answer, my mother's voice cut through the tension. "Oh, so now she appears, after destroying everything." She stood at the top of the stairs, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Dad appeared behind her carrying more boxes. "Quinn," he warned softly, "don't. Don't what? Don't tell our daughter what she's done? How she's torn this family apart over money?" I walked past them toward the attic stairs. "This was never about money." "Then what?" Angela emerged from the kitchen, one hand protectively over her barely visible pregnancy. "What was it about?" I paused on the stairs, looking back at my family, all the people who'd taken and taken until I had nothing left to give. It was about respect, about finally being treated like I matter. "Matter?" My mother laughed sharply. "You matter so much you're making your pregnant sister-in-law homeless?" "No one's homeless," I said, continuing up to the attic. "You all have places to go. You're just angry because for once you can't control the situation." I heard them following me up, watching as I went straight to the corner where I'd found the deed weeks ago. There were more boxes there, all of Grandma Mary's things, untouched since her death. "You knew," my mother said suddenly, her voice different. "Wilson told me you knew we hid the deed from you, that we lied." "Yes." "And this is your revenge?" I turned to face her, arms full of my grandmother's photo albums. "This is my inheritance, the one you tried to steal from me." "We never—" "You did. You knew I owned part of this house and still tried to charge me rent, still gave away rooms that weren't yours to give, still treated me like a tenant in my own home." Angela stepped forward. "My parents might still—" "Stop!" I cut her off. "Your parents won't help because they know you're wrong. Everyone knows you're wrong. You just can't admit it." The silence that followed was broken only by Dad's quiet footsteps as he came to help me with the boxes. "I found something else in these files," I continued, pulling out a yellowed envelope. "Letters between Grandma Mary and Aunt Prudence about how this family drives out anyone who doesn't play by their rules." My mother's face went pale. "Your aunt abandoned us." "No, you pushed her away, just like you tried to push me away. But Grandma Mary made sure I had options she never had." Christian snorted. Options? You mean a legal loophole to blackmail your own family? No, Dad spoke up, surprising everyone. A chance to break the cycle, to stop being the family doormat. Wilson! My mother looked shocked. He's right, I said, picking up the last box. And now it's done. The house sells next week. You all have your shares coming. Use them to build something new, preferably something with healthier boundaries. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, Angela called out, "What about the baby? Your niece or nephew will never know you now." I turned back one last time. Maybe someday they'll find their own grandmother's letters and learn the same lesson I did. Outside, Sebastian was waiting by his car. "All done?" I nodded, loading the boxes into his trunk. Behind us, the realtor was taking photos of the house, her camera clicking away as she captured the end of an era. "Your mother's watching from the window," Sebastian noted. "Let her watch. Let her remember this moment the next time she tries to take advantage of someone's love." As we drove away, I caught one last glimpse of my childhood home in the rearview mirror. The for sale sign swayed gently in the breeze, and for the first time in weeks, I felt nothing but peace. My phone buzzed, a text from Dad. "Mary would be proud, and so am I." I smiled, thinking of my grandmother's words about standing your ground. Sometimes it turns out, the ground you stand on is worth more than the family trying to pull you down. The keys to my new house jingled in my hand as I walked up the path. Not an apartment this time, a real house, bought with my share from the family home sale and the savings my grandmother had secretly set aside for me. Sebastian whistled as he carried a box through the front door. "Your grandmother would have loved this place." "She does love it," I corrected, setting down my own box. "I'm pretty sure she orchestrated this whole thing from wherever she is." My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Moving in today?" "Yes," I replied. "Want to see it?" His response came quickly. "Already on my way." I was unpacking kitchen boxes when he arrived. He stood in the doorway, taking in the sunny room with its big windows and morning light. "It looks like Mary's old kitchen," he said softly. "She always loved spaces like this." "I know. That's why I chose it." I handed him a mug of coffee. "How's Mom?" He sighed, accepting the coffee. "Angry, hurt, living with your Aunt Linda while she figures things out. Christian and Angela?" "Don't tell me," I interrupted. "I don't need to know." "Fair enough." He pulled something from his jacket, another envelope. "Found this in my old files. It's the last letter Mary wrote to Prudence before she died. Thought you should have it." I took it carefully, recognizing my grandmother's handwriting. The letter was short. "Dearest Prudence, I've done what you asked, made sure Tessa will have options we never had. The house share is her escape route if she needs it. Your niece is stronger than she knows, just like you were. When she finally stands up to them, remember that courage runs in our blood. All my love, Mary." "Did you know?" I asked Dad. "About her plans for me?" He nodded slowly. "She made me promise to watch over you, to make sure you found the deed when you needed it most. I failed at the first part, but at least the second worked out." Sebastian came in with another box. "Living room's almost done. Want to see?" We walked through the house, my house, room by room. Each space felt right, felt mine in a way no room in the family home ever had. No strings attached, no obligations, no guilt. "Oh," Sebastian said, checking his phone. "The real estate agent sent an update. Your old house just got its final offer." "And?" "Angela's parents bought it. Apparently they're turning it into a rental property." I laughed at the irony. "So everyone really did have to move out." "Karma's funny that way," Dad said, but he was smiling too. The doorbell rang, a delivery I'd been waiting for. The framer had finished with Grandma Mary's photos, including one I'd never seen before. Her and Aunt Prudence as young women, standing proud in front of their own first house. "Where will you put it?" Sebastian asked as I unwrapped it. "Right here," I said, hanging it in the entryway. "So everyone who enters knows whose house this really is." Dad touched the photo gently. "Mary would say it's yours, completely yours." It is, I agreed, but I wouldn't have it without her. As if on cue, the morning light streamed through the windows, catching the glass of the frame and making the photo glow. For a moment, I could almost feel my grandmother's presence, proud, fierce, and free. I should go, Dad said, heading for the door. Your mother might call eventually. When she does, I'll be here, I said, in my own house, living my own life. She can visit when she's ready to respect that. He hugged me, something he hadn't done in years. Mary was right about you being strong. After he left, Sebastian and I sat on my new porch, watching the neighborhood kids play across the street. No renovation demands, no family drama, no rent due for a room that was never really mine. Happy? He asked. More than that, I said. I'm free. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from an unknown address. The subject line read, "Found this in Mom's things. Thought you should see it. Prudence." Attached was a photo I'd never seen, my grandmother in her garden, a much younger me helping her plant flowers. On the back, she'd written, "Teaching Tessa about roots, the kind you choose to plant and the kind you choose to pull up." I showed it to Sebastian, who smiled. "Perfect spot for a garden here, you know." "I know," I said, looking out at my new yard, "and I know exactly what I'm going to plant first." Tomorrow I'd start my garden, choosing my own roots, growing something new. But today, sitting on my porch in the warm sun, I was exactly where I needed to be, in a house built on strength, not guilt, in a home that was finally, completely mine.
I stared at my phone, fingers trembling, as I scrolled through the Instagram photos. There they all were. Mom, Scarlett, Dad, and Solomon, my ex, sitting around a beautifully set table at Vincenzo's, raising their glasses in a toast to my father's 60th birthday. A birthday dinner I hadn't even known was happening. My name is Nicole, and I just discovered I'm the only member of my family who wasn't invited to celebrate my own father's milestone birthday. "Just a casual last-minute thing, sweetie," Mom's text read, coming in suspiciously fast after I'd viewed her story. "You know how these impromptu gatherings go." Impromptu. Right. I zoomed in on the wine bottle in the background, a 2015 Brunello di Montalcino, the exact wine I'd helped Dad pick out 3 weeks ago when he called asking for recommendations for a special occasion. "Everything okay?" My best friend Cora's voice cut through my spiraling thoughts. We were supposed to be having our weekly coffee catch-up, but I barely touched my latte. "They invited Solomon," I managed, turning my phone to show her. "To Dad's birthday dinner. Solomon, but not me." Cora's eyes widened as she took in the photos. "That manipulative piece of... Wait, isn't that the restaurant your dad specifically asked about last month?" "Yep." I let out a hollow laugh. "The one where I spent an hour researching their wine list for him. Guess now I know why." My phone buzzed again. Scarlett posting more photos. There she was, perfect as always, arm wrapped around Solomon's shoulders like he hadn't ghosted me after borrowing thousands of dollars. Like he hadn't spent our entire relationship convincing me I was lucky he even looked my way. "Have you called your dad?" Cora asked gently. "What's the point? He'll just say Mom and Scarlett handled the guest list. He always stays out of it." I took a shaky breath. You know what the worst part is? This isn't even surprising. It's just confirmation. Of what? That I've always been the outsider, the one they include when it's convenient, exclude when it's not. I scrolled to another photo, Mom beaming at Solomon as he apparently told some hilarious story. "Remember when I tried to tell them about the money he owed me? Mom said I was being dramatic. Scarlett said I probably misunderstood the arrangement." Cora reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Nicole, this is beyond messed up. You need to say something." My phone buzzed again. A text from Dad. "Great wine recommendation, sweetheart. Really made the evening special." Something inside me snapped. The careful wall I'd built around years of dismissal and gaslighting crumbled. I thought about the folder in my email, the one labeled Solomon Legal, the one containing every manipulative message, every broken promise, every admission of debt. The one I'd kept, telling myself I was just being cautious. You know what? I said, straightening up. I think Dad's about to learn exactly how special his evening was. What are you thinking? Cora leaned forward, concern mixing with curiosity in her expression. Solomon's not at that dinner just to reminisce, I said, pieces clicking into place. He's there to pitch Dad on investing in something. Has to be. It's his pattern. Charm his way into money, then disappear when it's time to pay up. How do you know? I pulled up my email on my phone, finding the folder I hadn't opened in months. Because he told me himself, right here, I'll pay you back as soon as I secure my next investment. Oh, that was 8 months ago. Want to bet that's exactly what he's after now? Oh my God, Cora whispered, reading over my shoulder. You kept everything? Every email, every text, every bank transfer. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They thought they could just exclude me, like always, that I'd sit quietly with the hurt, like always. I looked up at Cora, but they forgot something important. What's that? I'm not that person anymore. I picked up my phone, opening a new email. And I have receipts. Cora watched me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Do it. But Nicole, be ready. This isn't just going to hurt them. It's going to change everything. I thought about all the family dinners I'd sat through, swallowing my words. All the time Scarlett had talked over me, Mom had dismissed me, Dad had looked away. I thought about Solomon's smug face in those photos, knowing exactly what he was doing. Good, I said, and started typing. Back home, I sat cross-legged on my couch, laptop open, surrounded by the ghostly blue light of my screen. It was past midnight, but sleep wasn't an option. Not when I finally had purpose burning through my veins. Okay, Solomon, I muttered, opening the folder I'd labeled as my personal Pandora's box. Let's see what kind of story these tell. My phone lit up. Cora checking in. You sure about this? Never been more sure, I texted back. Already found some gems. The first email was from exactly 9 months ago. Solomon's desperate plea after I'd threatened legal action. Baby, please. You know I'm good for it. This new venture is going to be huge. I just need time to secure the right investors. Don't do anything rash. I screen grabbed it, creating a new document. The next email was even better. The $50K was always meant to be an investment, not a loan. You're making this weird by demanding repayment terms. My bitter laugh echoed in my empty apartment. Funny how it wasn't weird when he was begging for the money, swearing he'd pay me back with interest. Another message notification popped up. Scarlett this time. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won out. You're being really childish by ignoring Mom's texts. It was just dinner. Stop making everything about you. I added her message to my growing file. Context matters after all. My phone rang, startling me. Dad's name lit up the screen. Hey, sweetheart, he said when I answered. His voice had that slight slur that came with expensive wine. Just wanted to thank you again for the wine recommendation. Really impressed everyone. Everyone including Solomon? The words slipped out before I could stop them. A long pause. Ah, you saw the photos. Hard to miss them once they're all over Instagram. Nicole, he sighed. You know how your mother gets about these things. Solomon just happened to be in town and... Save it, Dad. I pulled up another email from Solomon, dated just 2 weeks ago. Quick question. Did he happen to mention a new tech venture? Something about revolutionary AI integration? The silence on the other end was deafening. How did you... Because I have the same pitch in my inbox from 8 months ago, right after he ghosted me with $50K of my money. I kept my voice steady. But I'm sure he's changed. I'm sure this time it's totally legitimate. Nicole, this is business. It's not personal. Really? because excluding your daughter from your birthday dinner while inviting her fraudulent ex feels pretty personal. Another pause. What do you mean fraudulent? I smiled despite myself. Check your email in the morning, Dad. I think you'll find some interesting reading material. What are you? Good night, Dad. Happy birthday. I hung up and returned to my laptop. Opening Solomon's investor deck, forwarded to me by a friend in tech months ago, I found exactly what I expected. There, under risk assessment, was a single line that made my blood boil. Previous venture faced opposition from disgruntled former partner. Personal relationship, no legal merit. That's what I was to him. A footnote. A risk to be dismissed. My phone buzzed again. A text from Solomon himself. Heard you talk to Greg. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. We can work something out. I added his message to the file, then opened my email. The subject line was simple. What you need to know before tomorrow's investment meeting. Into the body I wrote, Dad, I've attached documentation of Solomon's pattern of financial manipulation, including bank statements, communication records, and evidence of similar behavior with other investors. I'm not sending this out of spite, but because I can't watch him do to you what he did to me. Love, Nicole. My cursor hovered over the send button. This would change everything, not just with Solomon, but with my entire family. Mom would be furious. Scarlett would never forgive me for ruining her perfect dinner's aftermath. Another Instagram notification popped up. Scarlett had posted yet another photo from dinner, captioned, "Nothing better than family time with the people who really matter." I clicked send. Immediately, my phone lit up with a call from Solomon. I declined it, watching as 3 more calls came in rapid succession. Then a text. You have no idea what you've just done. Actually, I whispered to my empty apartment, I know exactly what I've done. I closed my laptop, suddenly exhausted but lighter somehow. Tomorrow would bring chaos, but for tonight, I'd done what I should have done months ago. I'd chosen truth over peace, action over acceptance. I'd chosen myself. Sleep didn't come easy. I tossed and turned, checking my phone every few minutes. By 6 a.m., I gave up and made coffee, watching the sunrise paint my kitchen walls pink while notifications started rolling in. First, a missed call from Mom at 5:47 a.m. No voicemail. Then Scarlett, answer your phone right now. 3 more calls from Solomon, all declined. At 7:13, the email I'd been waiting for arrived. From Dad, we'll talk, thank you. 2 words that made my hands shake so hard, I nearly dropped my phone. Not the explosion I'd expected, not the dismissal I'd feared. Just, we'll talk, thank you. Cora called while I was still staring at those words. You doing okay? She asked. Your sister's been posting some pretty intense stuff. I pulled up Instagram. Scarlett had shared a series of cryptic stories. Some people will do anything for attention, followed by family means loyalty, and finally, the truth always comes out. She's not wrong about that last one, I said, surprising myself with a laugh. Nicole, Cora hesitated. Solomon's been calling me too, trying to get me to tell him where you live. My blood ran cold. What? Don't worry, I told him to get lost, but maybe stay at my place for a few days. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Dad. I have to take this, I told Cora. I'll call you back, I answered, heart pounding. Dad? The meeting's in an hour, he said without preamble. His voice was tight, controlled. I've already forwarded everything to Virgil. Virgil, Dad's friend and business advisor for 20 years. My stomach clenched. What did he say? He said I should thank you. Dad's voice cracked slightly. And that I should have asked more questions when you first mentioned problems with Solomon. Dad, No, let me finish. Your mother, she's been in contact with Solomon for months. Did you know that? The betrayal hit like a physical blow. No. She thought she was helping, said you were just bitter about the breakup, that Solomon had changed. He took a shaky breath. I should have seen it. Should have asked why they were so insistent about that dinner. A text from Solomon flashed across my screen. Last chance to fix this. Dad, whatever he's offering you, it's not real. None of it is. I know that now. Papers rustled in the background. The investment meeting is just a formality. I'm not giving him a cent. But Nicole, this is going to get messy. Your mother's already talking about family loyalty, about how you've betrayed everyone's trust. I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet for the sake of family loyalty. All the times I'd swallowed my truth to keep peace. Then let it get messy, I said. I'm done pretending. Good. The pride in his voice was something I hadn't heard in years. That's my girl. After we hung up, I finally listened to the voicemail Solomon had left at 3 a.m. You think you're so clever, don't you? Sending all that private correspondence, breaking confidence? I've got lawyers too, sweetheart, and they're going to tear you apart. You want to play dirty? Let's play. I forwarded the voicemail to Dad and Virgil, then called Cora back. I'm coming to get you, she said immediately. Pack a bag. You're staying with me. I can't hide from this. It's not hiding, it's being smart. Solomon's unhinged, your mom's on the warpath, and your sister's rallying her entire Instagram following against you. Take a breath. Let the dust settle. My phone pinged with a message from Virgil. Smart girl. Keep documenting everything. We've got your back. Another Instagram notification. Mom had finally broken her social media silence with a photo from last night's dinner, carefully cropped to show just her and Dad. Family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. Some truths shouldn't be told. I clicked through to the comments. Scarlett had already responded. Some people mistake revenge for righteousness. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, tempted to respond. Instead, I took a screenshot and added it to my growing file of documentation. Okay, I told Cora. I'll pack a bag, but I'm not running away. I'm just regrouping. That's my girl. I'll be there in 20. And Nicole? Yeah? I'm proud of you. This took guts. After hanging up, I looked around my apartment, at the life I'd built despite Solomon's betrayal, despite my family's dismissal. On my bookshelf sat a photo from years ago. Me, Mom, Dad, and Scarlett at the beach, all smiling. It felt like looking at strangers. I packed the photo too, a reminder of what I was fighting for, not the fantasy of what we were, but the truth of what we'd become. My phone buzzed one final time. Dad again. Meeting starting. Stand strong. I was pacing Cora's living room when Dad's call finally came. 3 hours had passed since the investment meeting was supposed to start. It's done, he said, sounding exhausted. And it was ugly. What happened? Solomon lost it. Completely lost it. Started yelling about betrayal, about how you'd violated his privacy. Then Virgil pulled up the SEC investigation. The what? I sank onto Cora's couch. Turns out we weren't the only ones looking into his business practices. When Virgil mentioned it, Solomon just snapped. Started threatening everyone. Security had to escort him out. My hands were shaking. Dad, I'm so sorry. Don't be. But Nicole? He took a deep breath. Your mother and sister were waiting in the lobby. They'd come to support Solomon. The betrayal felt like ice in my veins. Of course they did. It got worse. Your mother. She admitted she's been helping Solomon set this up for months. Said she was trying to fix things between you two. That's why they arranged the dinner. Fix things? I laughed bitterly. By ambushing you with an investment pitch from my fraudulent ex? I confronted them both. It didn't go well. My phone buzzed with an incoming text. Scarlett, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. Mom's crying. Dad's not speaking to any of us. And Solomon's life is ruined. All because you couldn't handle being left out one time. Nicole? Dad's voice brought me back. Are you there? Yeah, I'm here. Just got a lovely message from Scarlett. She's angry, they both are. Your mother's saying I betrayed her by believing you over Solomon. Another text came through. From Mom this time. This was not your place. Some things should stay in the family. Funny how I'm only family when it's convenient, I said, forwarding the messages to Virgil as he'd instructed. I need some time, Dad said quietly, to think, to process. I've moved into the lake house for a while. Dad, no, listen, I'm proud of you for speaking up, but I need to figure out how I missed so much, how I let them. He trailed off. Just stay safe, okay? Solomon was saying some things. My phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. Speaking of which, I think his lawyers are calling now. Don't answer. Let them leave a message. And Nicole, I love you. Those 3 words, so rare from my father, made my eyes sting. After we hung up, I checked my voicemail. A clipped professional voice. Ms. Mason, this is regarding a cease and desist order and pending lawsuit for defamation and intentional interference with business relationships. Please have your lawyer contact our office immediately. Cora emerged from her kitchen with 2 glasses of wine. That bad? Solomon's suing me. Mom and Scarlett showed up to support him against Dad. And apparently there's an SEC investigation I knew nothing about. About that, Cora pulled out her laptop. Remember my friend who works in tech investment? She just sent me this. She turned the screen to show me a financial news website. The headline made my heart stop. Tech startup under investigation for fraudulent investment practices. Multiple victims coming forward. Holy shit, I whispered. Your email to your dad? It wasn't just about saving him. You might have helped expose something much bigger. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. Scarlett was on a posting spree. Stories, posts, comments all painting me as the villain, Solomon as the victim, herself as the loyal sister standing by truth and family. Mom had joined in too. A mother's heart breaks when children choose vengeance over love. They're really going all in on this narrative, aren't they? Cora said, reading over my shoulder. They always do. It's easier than facing the truth. A new email popped up from Virgil. Stay strong. Keep everything they send you. Your father's lawyer will be in touch tomorrow. Don't engage with anyone until then. I closed my social media apps and turned off notifications. The weight of everything, the lawsuit, the family chaos, the SEC investigation, pressed down on me. Hey, Cora said softly, handing me the wine. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel so awful? Because doing the right thing sometimes means breaking what was wrong, and that always hurts. I took a long sip of wine, thinking about Solomon's threats, Mom's cold dismissal, Scarlett's rage, about Dad, alone at the lake house, finally seeing the truth. You know what the worst part is? I said. Part of me still wishes they'd just invited me to dinner. Cora squeezed my hand. I know, but they didn't. And now everyone has to live with the consequences. 3 days at Cora's turned into a week. I worked remotely, designed logos for clients, and watched as Scarlett systematically rewrote our family history on social media. Just look at this, I said, showing Cora my phone over breakfast. She's posted a throwback photo from 2 years ago. Me, her, and Solomon at Christmas. Her caption, some people can't handle seeing others happy. Jealousy destroys families. The comments are brutal, Cora noted, scrolling through the responses. How many followers does she have now? Up 10,000 since this started. She's turning it into content. I laughed hollowly. Mom's helping, of course. Every passive-aggressive quote about forgiveness gets shared to her story. My phone rang. Dad's lawyer, Margaret. Good news, she said when I answered. Solomon's lawsuit is basically dead in the water. Everything you shared was documented communication. and his threats since then have only strengthened our position. What about the SEC thing? That's bigger than we initially thought. Multiple investors have come forward. Your father's evidence was just the tip of the iceberg. A notification popped up. Scarlett had posted again. The truth about my sister's vendetta against Solomon. Full story in my next post. They're really committed to this narrative, I told Margaret, that I'm just jealous and vindictive. Let them talk. Every post, every comment, it's all documentation. Speaking of which, your father wanted me to tell you he's filing for divorce. The words hit like a physical blow. What? The dinner was apparently the last straw. Finding out your mother orchestrated it all hid Solomon's true intentions. He's done. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence until Cora brought me coffee. You okay? My parents are getting divorced. Because of me. No, Cora said firmly. Because your mom chose Solomon over her own family. Because she's been lying and manipulating everyone. My phone buzzed. Scarlett's promise expose had dropped. A carefully curated carousel of photos and screenshots painting me as unstable, jealous, vindictive. The final slide was a screenshot of a text I'd supposedly sent Solomon. I'll destroy you if it's the last thing I do. That's fake, I said, staring at the doctored message. She's actually creating fake evidence. Screenshot it, Cora advised. Send it to Margaret. Before I could, another notification appeared. A message from someone I hadn't heard from in months. Lisa, Solomon's ex-business partner. I saw what's happening, she wrote. I have proof he did the same thing to me. Would you like it? My hands shook as I replied, yes. Minutes later, my inbox filled with documents. Bank statements, contracts, emails. The same pattern, the same promises, the same threats when she tried to expose him. I forwarded everything to Margaret, then opened Instagram. Scarlett had posted again. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. My sister showed us her true colors. The irony was almost funny. My phone rang. Dad, you saw? I asked. I saw. Your mother's defending her, saying Scarlett's just protecting family. He sounded tired. I'm selling the house. Dad, I can't stay there. Not after everything. The lake house feels more like home now anyway. He paused. How are you holding up? Oh, you know, just watching my sister turn me into a social media villain while Mom cheers her on. Living the dream. Nicole. His voice softened. Come visit me this weekend. Just us. No drama. No phones. We can fish off the dock like when you were little. The invitation, so simple, so genuine, made my throat tight. I'd like that. After we hung up, I checked my email one last time. A message from Virgil. SEC wants to talk to you, formally. Your evidence combined with Lisa's, this is becoming a major case. Cora read over my shoulder. Still think you should have just stayed quiet? I thought about Mom and Scarlett, so desperate to maintain their perfect narrative that they'd destroy anyone who threatened it. About Solomon, whose house of cards was finally falling. About Dad, finding peace in his solitude. You know what's funny, I said. They thought excluding me from dinner was the punishment, but it was the wake-up call I needed. My phone lit up with another notification. Someone had tagged me in a comment on Scarlett's post. Where's your sister's side of the story? Why are we only hearing your version? I watched as more comments appeared, questioning the narrative, asking for proof. The tide was turning, slowly but surely. Truth, I said, putting my phone down, doesn't need an Instagram filter. Cora smiled. Now that should be your next post. No, I said, thinking of the lake house, of fishing, with Dad. I think I'm done performing for their audience. The lake house looked exactly as I remembered. Weathered blue shutters, creaky screen door, and the old wooden dock stretching into calm waters. Dad was waiting on the porch with 2 cups of coffee when I pulled up. You remembered the fishing gear? He asked as I climbed the steps. In the trunk, along with those disgusting cheese crackers you love. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Up close, I could see how tired he looked, how much older than just a few weeks ago. We need to talk, he said, handing me a coffee, about everything I missed. We settled into the ancient Adirondack chairs facing the lake. The morning sun painted everything gold, almost like nothing had changed. When did it start? He asked. With Solomon, I mean. The money? I took a sip of coffee. Or the manipulation? Both. I told him everything. How Solomon had slowly isolated me from friends. How he'd convinced me his financial troubles were temporary. How the loan had started as $5,000 and somehow became $50,000. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I tried, Dad. Remember that dinner last Christmas when I mentioned Solomon owing me money? Mom said I was being dramatic. Scarlett said I was just bitter about the breakup. I hesitated. I changed the subject, he finished quietly, like I always did. A fish jumped in the lake, breaking the surface with a quiet splash. I let them steamroll you, he continued, for years. It was easier than dealing with your mother's intensity, with Scarlett's drama. He set his coffee down. I failed you. Dad. No, let me finish. When I saw those emails you sent, saw the evidence of what he'd done, I realized I hadn't just failed to protect you. I'd helped them hurt you. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably another notification from Scarlett's ongoing social media campaign. I ignored it. You know what's weird? I said. If they just invited me to that dinner, none of this would have happened. Solomon would have gotten his investment. Mom would have gotten her perfect family facade, and I would have kept quiet, like always. And I would have lost everything, Dad added. The investment, yes, but more than that. My chance to finally see the truth. My phone buzzed again. This time, Dad pulled his out too. Ah, he said, your mother's lawyers finally filed the divorce response. How bad? She wants the house, half my business interests, and... He laughed without humor. She's claiming emotional distress from how I turned our daughter against the family. That's rich, coming from someone who invited my fraudulent ex to your birthday dinner. Speaking of Solomon, Dad pulled up an email on his phone. Virgil sent this morning. The SEC investigation is going public next week. Multiple charges of investment fraud, wire fraud, securities violations. They're calling it a Ponzi scheme. Have you told Mom? She's not speaking to me, but Scarlett... He showed me her latest Instagram story, a photo of her hugging Solomon, caption reading, standing by good people in bad times. The truth will prevail. The truth already is prevailing, I said, just not their version of it. Dad stood up suddenly. Let's go fishing. All this. He waved at our phones. It can wait. I want to hear about your life. The real stuff, not the drama. Your work, your dreams, everything I missed while I was playing peacekeeper. We spent the next few hours on the dock, fishing poles in hand, talking about everything and nothing. Dad told me about his plans to retire completely, to make the lake house his permanent home. I told him about my graphic design business, about the children's book I'd been secretly illustrating. You know what I remember? He said as the sun climbed higher. You used to sit out here for hours, drawing the birds. Your mother said you were wasting time, that you should focus on practical things like Scarlett did. I should have defended you then. You're defending me now. Too little? Too late? No, I said, thinking of all the alternate versions of this story, the one where I stayed quiet, the one where I gave in to their narrative, the one where nothing ever changed. I think it's right on time. My phone buzzed again, a message from Margaret. Solomon's lawyers want to discuss a settlement. They know what's coming with the SEC. How do you want to proceed? I showed Dad the message. Your call, he said, but whatever you decide, I'm with you this time. All the way. I looked out at the lake, at the future stretching out before us, messy and real and true. Tell them no deal, I said. Some things are worth more than money. Dad squeezed my shoulder. That's my girl. The SEC announcement hit like a tsunami. I watched from Cora's couch as Solomon's face appeared on every local news channel. The words multi-million-dollar investment fraud scrolling beneath his perfectly composed expression. Turn it up, Cora said, bringing in fresh coffee. Serial entrepreneur Solomon Davis faces multiple federal charges in what investigators are calling an elaborate Ponzi scheme targeting private investors, the anchor announced. Sources say the investigation was accelerated by evidence provided by former associates. My phone exploded with notifications. Scarlett had gone silent on Instagram for the first time in weeks. Mom, however, had not. Family stands together in crisis, her post read. The media doesn't know the whole story. But I do, I muttered, opening my email to find a message from Lisa. They're interviewing me tomorrow. You? Thursday, I typed back. How are you holding up? Better than Solomon. Did you see he's been dropped by his lawyers? Before I could respond, Dad called. You watching the news? He asked. Yeah. How's the fallout? Your mother's hysterical. Keeps saying we've ruined her standing in the community. Scarlett. He paused. Scarlett finally knows the truth. What do you mean? Virgil showed her the complete file. Everything. Including emails between Solomon and your mother from months ago, planning how to get me to invest. Turns out your mother reconnected with him right after your breakup. She's been grooming this situation for a while. The betrayal felt fresh all over again. Why? Money. Status. She thought having Solomon in the family, successful, connected Solomon, would give her the social standing she's always wanted. She never believed your warnings because she didn't want to. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, Solomon. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything I built. I forwarded it to Margaret without responding. Nicole? Dad's voice brought me back. There's something else. Scarlett's here. What? At the lake house. She wants to talk to you. My heart pounded. Put her on. A moment of rustling. Then my sister's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Hey, She took a shaky breath. I was wrong about everything. Mom showed me selected parts of messages, told me Solomon was the victim. I believed her because it was easier than admitting what we did to you. Scarlett. No, let me finish. I was horrible. The dinner, the social media campaign, all of it. I chose the pretty lie over my own sister. And now, she choked up, now Mom's still defending him, even with all the evidence. She's lost in her own reality, and I finally see it. I closed my eyes, feeling tears threaten. It's not just about the dinner. I know. It's years of us dismissing you, excluding you, making you feel crazy for telling the truth. I'm so sorry, Nicole. I know it's not enough, but I'm sorry. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with breaking news. Solomon Davis, arrested on federal charges, multiple victims come forward. Are you seeing this? Scarlett asked. Yeah. Mom's still at his lawyer's office trying to help his defense. She laughed bitterly. She really can't let go of her perfect narrative. Some people can't handle reality when it threatens their carefully constructed world, I said. I couldn't either, but I'm trying now. She paused. Can we talk in person? Maybe at that coffee shop you like? I thought about all the times I'd extended olive branches, all the times I'd been hurt. But I also thought about Dad, finally standing up for me, about truth, finally breaking through. Okay, I said. Tomorrow morning? Thank you, she whispered. After we hung up, Cora looked at me questioningly. You sure about this? No, I admitted, but I'm not doing it for her, or for Mom, or even for family harmony. I'm doing it because I want to know who my sister is when she's not playing a role in mom's perfect family fantasy. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Margaret. Solomon's taking a plea deal. Your testimony won't be needed. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not really. It was just beginning. The messy, honest work of rebuilding relationships on truth instead of pretense. Of learning who we all were without the masks we'd worn for so long. Hey, Cora said softly. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you. I looked at the news coverage, at Solomon's mugshot, at Mom's desperate social media posts, at Scarlett's silence, at the whole tangled web of lies finally exposed to sunlight. You know what's funny, I said. They thought uninviting me to dinner would put me in my place. Instead, it gave me the courage to finally find my voice. Cora raised her coffee cup. To uninvited daughters who refused to stay quiet. I clinked my cup against hers. To truth in all its messy glory. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Maple Coffee House as I waited for Scarlett. My phone buzzed with news alerts. Solomon Davis pleads guilty. And tech investment scheme claims multiple victims. The bell above the door chimed. Scarlett walked in without her usual perfect makeup and Instagram-ready outfit. She looked younger somehow, more like the sister I remembered from childhood. I ordered your usual, I said as she sat down. Oat milk latte, extra shot. You remembered. She wrapped her hands around the mug. I just came from Mom's. How is she? Still in denial. She's convinced Solomon was framed, that you manipulated everyone. Scarlett stared into her coffee. She wanted me to help her start a fundraiser for his legal fees. And I said no. For the first time in my life, I told her no. She looked up at me. She didn't take it well. I can imagine. The thing is, Nicole, Scarlett's voice cracked. Watching her spiral, seeing how she twists reality to fit her narrative, it made me realize I was becoming just like her. The social media campaigns, the fake screenshots, the constant performance of perfection. It's exhausting, isn't it? God, yes. She pulled out her phone, showing me her Instagram profile. I deleted everything. All the posts about you, about Solomon, about our perfect family. It felt freeing. My own phone lit up with a text from Dad. Moving trucks at the house today. Your mother's leaving. I showed it to Scarlett. Good, she said firmly. Maybe without her influence, we can... She hesitated. We can try to be real sisters again, if you want. The barista brought our pastries, chocolate croissants, another childhood favorite we used to share. It won't be easy, I said. There's a lot of hurt. I know, but I'm willing to do the work. Real work, not just pretty Instagram apologies. My phone buzzed again. Virgil this time. Settlement papers ready for review. Solomon's assets frozen. You'll get your money back. The funny thing is, I said, putting my phone down, the money doesn't even matter anymore. What matters is that the truth finally came out. Truth, Scarlett repeated thoughtfully. Remember when we were kids and we'd hide under the dock at the lake house? Just us, telling secrets? Before Mom decided secrets were better kept buried. Before I learned to perform instead of live. Scarlett broke the croissant in half, offering me a piece like we used to. Dad invited me to stay at the lake house for a while. Said he's turning the old boathouse into an art studio. For his retirement? For you. He said it's time you had space to create without judgment. Something warm bloomed in my chest. Really? He's trying. We both are. Scarlett pulled an envelope from her bag, which is why I brought this. Inside was a stack of papers, printouts of every false social media post she'd made about me, every manipulated screenshot, every lie. I'm going to post a public retraction, she said, the whole truth. About Solomon, about Mom, about how we treated you. No filters, no performance. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Not for likes or followers or Mom's approval. For us. My phone lit up one last time. A message from Mom. I hope you're satisfied with the family you've destroyed. Scarlett saw it too. She'll never change, will she? Probably not. But we can. To change, Scarlett raised her coffee cup, and to second chances. Later that evening, as I packed boxes for my temporary move to the lake house, Cora helped me sort through old photos. Look at this, she said, holding up a picture from the dock. Two little girls with gap-toothed smiles, holding up a fish nearly as big as they were. Before the performance, I said, before the perfect family facade. And now, I showed her Scarlett's latest post, a simple, unfiltered photo of our coffee cups and broken croissant. Starting over, starting real, the truth about my sister. Think it'll last? Cora asked. I thought about Dad's art studio, about Scarlett's deleted posts, about Mom's crumbling fantasy world, about truth finally breaking free. I think, I said, packing the old doc photo carefully, we're finally ready to write our own story. No filters needed. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in honest colors, not perfect, but beautiful in their chaos. Just like truth, just like family, just like healing. I picked up my phone and texted Scarlett. Dad's making his famous terrible chili at the lake house tomorrow. Want to help me tell him how awful it is? Her response came quickly. Only if we can hide under the dock after. I have more truths to tell. This time, when I smiled, it reached all the way to my heart.